semi-final, which is probably not surprising when you consider the score was 119 to 9 points for Kerry. So they had to make changes. They would have had 5, only Anthony Lynch who was selected, I believe, is injured, so his place is taken by Michael Prout. They've revamped the team. There's forwards playing in midfield and there's backs playing in the forwards, and it's a mumble jumble of a team, so we'll have to wait and see. The overriding thing, of course, is that this is a Cork-Kerry match. It's in Cork, in Páirc Rinn. I believe Cork have never lost a flooded match in Páirc Rinn, and you know, if they're going to do anything at all in the next few months, they have to produce it tonight against Kerry.
If they can't find motivation at this time of the season, Paul. Just in terms of possible bright spots for Cork, I mean, Daniel Goulding, I think, who scored that goal against Offaly, albeit when the game was over, seems to be somebody who's talked about, but I suppose that's a problem in Cork too, is that there's been such a famine. I know myself that anyone who's, you know, in any form, or anyone who's tipped up from minor up, is possibly made out to be a saviour that they can't possibly become.
That's true, and I think one of Cork's problems is that they haven't been involved in a minor All-Ireland for a number of years, and you know, they used to certainly be winning All-Irelands, certainly minor All-Irelands every couple of years, you know, in the 80s and the 90s for fun, if you like. So, you know, the conveyor belt of talent is certainly not coming through to the Cork team that it used to. And they haven't got the history of winning over the last number of years also. And obviously, you know, it's a bit like the Kerry successful team of the 70s and 80s. You know, there's maybe a mental block there with the Cork team at this stage as well, getting close to Kerry in some games, but not actually been able to make the breakthrough. And obviously last year's big defeat was a demoralising defeat for them, and the difficulty that they're going to have today is against a Kerry side that's starting with 9 of the team that started last year's All-Ireland final, and Cork with really 4 of the team that started that, if you like, semi-final.
I suppose what's sad about that analysis is that we're saying if Cork had more of the team that were absolutely whacked last year, they'd have more of a chance. But I just want to have a quick look at betting, because I thought this was intriguing. I know you have a punt, Eugene. I'm not sure about you, Paul. You're in the financial services business. You might be too cautious. But according to Betfair, there's nearly even money available on Kerry, if we can see that. Would you have a piece of that, Eugene?
Well, I'm locked in here, unfortunately. I can't get to Betfair, but I mean, that's the bet of the week by a long shot. I mean, I think 2 to 1 on or 5 to 1 would be much more realistic about Kerry, unless Cork performs a miracle, which I don't think they're capable of doing.
Right, and then over to Kerry then, Paul. I mean, in terms of, we heard that obviously Jack O'Connor, after last weekend's match, he's going to be more determined to come up now and just put a line under that home defeat last week.
He is. I think in the second half there were positive signs for them. They won a lot of possession, but they were wasteful in front of goal, which is unusual for a Kerry side. And that was, I suppose, a combination of poor shooting, poor finishing, but also good Mayo defence. And he's made a number of changes, and the most notable ones, I suppose, are in the half-forward line. And very interestingly, last week he played 2, if you like, midfielders at wing half forward, Paddy Kelly and Kieran Donaghy, and they weren't really able to cope with the Mayo wing half back, the pace of the Mayo wing half backs, who are attacking constantly. And in the modern game, you know, wing half backs are really going up and down the field all the time. You know, they're actually extra forwards. So what he's done this week, he's put Owen Brosnan from the centre out to the wing, and he's brought Darren O'Sullivan out from the corner out to the wing as well. So he's got 2 very pacey players and also 2 score getters as well. So I think a twin approach, I suppose. One, to put pressure on or to stop the Cork wing half backs going down the field, but also to add extra pace to that wing half forward, those wing half forward positions.
And what about Eamon Fitzmaurice then? I mean, he's been shifted around.
Well, now this is a very strange decision. I don't know what's behind it, whether it's an attempt to keep Eamon Fitzmaurice on the team, because they didn't have a problem at centre forward. Owen Brosnan I would rate as one of the top 3 or 4 centre forwards in the country.
Played very well last week.
You'd wonder when they would stabilise the man in a position why. It must be to try and bring Fitzmaurice back into play. You know, they probably value him, but he's going through not going through a great patch. I suspect that's the reason.
All right. We'll move along. As I mentioned, tonight is the second in our Floodlit football series, and here's a look at what else is coming up for you. We have a run of 4 successive Saturdays in March. On March the 4th, Dublin host Offaly in Parnell Park. A week later, on March the 11th, Cork and Dublin square up in Páirc Rinn. Tralee is the venue on March the 18th as Kerry take on Offaly, and the last of our Floodlit matches takes place on Saturday, March 25th, when Dublin face Mayo in Parnell Park. So, make a note. Floodlit Gaelic football here on Setanta Sports on the 4 Saturdays in March. Programmes will start at 7:30 with the throw into the matches set for 7:45. We look forward to you joining us. So a couple of Saturdays off, and then we're back into, as you see there, the 4 Saturdays in March, live matches, live Floodlit football from the Alliance National Football League every Saturday in March. I'm hearing that the team lineups have been finalised, so let's swing down to Cork and to Páirc Rinn, where our commentary team of Kevin Mallon and Ray Silk are standing by.
Absolutely teeming down at Páirc Rinn. Well, clearly it's going to make conditions very difficult for both these sides. As regards team news, well, 3 late changes on the Cork team, 2 not unexpected. Anthony Lynch fails to make it at corner back. Michael Prout is his replacement. And in the full forward line, neither John Hayes nor Brendan Ger O'Sullivan start. So goal scorer Robert O'Mahony and young Daniel Goulding gets another start. Add in 3 positional changes and you have a less than settled Cork selection. Well, first it was Tomás O'Shea in midfield, now it's Eamon Fitzmaurice on the 40. The surprises continue as Kerry make 3 changes from the Mayo match. David Murphy returns to goals, Thomas Sullivan to corner back, and teenager Paul O'Connor, who should have started in the corner, is a late withdrawal. So Colm Cooper is in from the throw-in. Only 4 players, Mike McCarthy, Mossy Lyons, Dara O'Shea and Declan O'Sullivan, retain the same position that they had in Tralee a week ago.
Okay. Well, I suppose there's over about 5 minutes to throw in now, so we'll take a quick break, but coming up afterwards, live coverage of the Allianz National Football League clash between Cork and Kerry. Páirc Rinn, and join our commentary team down there, Kevin Mallon and Ray Silk.
Well, here in Páirc Rinn, I'm joined once again on commentary by Ray Silk. A wet evening, and Ray, very important for both these sides to pick up points now. They lost first time out, they'll be determined to win tonight.
Very much so. It's going to be a huge game for Cork. If they lose here, Kevin, they're going to find themselves very much in difficulty as regards relegation.
Well, Kerry, of course, made 1 late change. As they're coming out now, we know that Colm Cooper will be into this team, and that's very important for them. That's a great benefit to be able to play a player like that.
Yeah, the fact that Cooper's back is unbelievable. He came on the last day, he scored 2 great points. You know, Paul O'Connor was only a minor. Eugene, it was mentioned there maybe that the bet of the week is Kerry to win tonight, and looking at what we're looking at now, it's going to be very difficult for Cork to take them.
It's a very strong Cork team, I suppose, with what they've got at the moment. No Nemo Rangers players, but they have to go with new faces as well. Billy Morgan will be upset, though. You don't like reshuffling a team at the last minute.
No, it's not ideal. And one major loss, obviously, is Anthony Lynch. Lynch is a terrific player. He has a few All-Irelands, or he has a few All-Stars in the bag already. He's a huge loss. So Billy had to try and do something. They lost the Munster final, they lost the All-Ireland semi-final, so he had to make changes, and he's done that. But the cost of experimentation is obviously very high.
Now, there are a number of young players on both these sides that we're looking at now. Of course, Daniel Goulding is one who's in there for Cork. It's a pity for Paul O'Connor, because Paul O'Connor would have been a player who would have graced this stage tonight, and he's a player who's just been coming through the minor ranks. It would have been a great night for him to start, but Colm Cooper's there in place of him.
You know, Cooper, we mentioned last week against Mayo, Kerry were finding it very, very difficult. Cooper came on, made a huge difference. If you have Colm Cooper, the only issue for Jack O'Connor, I guess, is if he has a Gilmore's groin problem, which they say he has, or if he has a groin problem, you don't want to be playing him in the league as much as it is possible.
Well, Jack O'Connor obviously is a man who didn't look too happy after the defeat against Mayo, but it must be said that on that occasion, despite the fact that Kerry lost, they played some good football. They scored a goal and 14 points, which isn't bad.
No, very much so, and there's the major reshuffle. You know, I think maybe I got criticised during the week ago for being a bit harsh on Eamon Fitzmaurice. He did have a poor game at centre back. He's shuffled now up to centre forward, so it'll be interesting what they're going to do. It's a very interesting perspective from other people, other counties looking in. Are Kerry going to go with a seven guys at the back?
Well, Billy Morgan must know that it's difficult for him just at the moment, because he's had to reshuffle tonight. He hasn't got the full selection that he would like to have, and he'll just be hoping tonight. It'll be nothing like the McGrath Cup final, though, a few weeks ago here.
No, interesting though, like this time last year, Kerry got turned over here. You know, Cork have a very, very good record here in Páirc Rinn. Sometimes the young players, their backs to the wall and they can really tear into it. And I think that's what Billy's looking for. Billy's looking to a situation here where he can get some young players, get them blooded, and put it up to Kerry. But at this juncture, you'd have to fancy a Kerry victory. But you know, there's always surprises. There was big surprises last week. But the big issue for Cork, I suppose, is their form was so bad against Offaly last Sunday.
Well, Graham Canty there was for a moment the shot the Cork captain, Eamon Fitzmaurice. Big night for him as well. On the 40, making changes. Mike Frank Russell, their top scorer so far this year. Colm Cooper. I mean, they have the forwards, wonderful players. And for Cork, of course, they've had their late changes as well. And that's Michael Prout and Kieran O'Connor there. Declan O'Sullivan, the Kerry captain. There's a lot of nerves in this game. It is Kerry, it is Cork. It's a big night no matter what level. Mossy Lyons, another player who's really been a great servant at club level and in the Kerry panel, and often gets carried into these kind of situations whenever somebody else isn't available. Robert O'Mahony, he's had a very good McGrath Cup campaign. He's been scoring goals quite freely, and if he can do that tonight, be delighted once again. Darragh O'Shea there looking down to his teammates, as indeed the crowd here are looking around at the big Setanta Sports screen. And despite the rain, it's certainly going to make an interesting night. Fintan Gould, one of the students in the Cork setup as well. So many good players in this team. And once again, Declan O'Sullivan as the crowd rise here for a Ron Navian. From Kerry moving back into his position, a position he has filled with regularity over the last couple of seasons, never misses a match. The huddle for Cork. Referee this evening is Maurice Deegan of Laois. He refereed 4 matches in the 2005 championship, including what was perhaps Cork's best outing of the entire year, that great quarter-final victory over Galway in Croke Park. Silk, the rain is bound to have a huge impact now. It's come down in the last half an hour. The grass is cut fairly short. It's going to be very slippy.
It's going to be a very slippy occasion, all right. I walked the pitch as I came in. It's an absolutely fantastic condition. It's all credit to the groundsman down here. But yeah, it's going to be slippy, it's going to be wet. But there's a great atmosphere here. It's very, very lively. The lights are in top shape here, so it's going to be a fine game. Cork, I think, I was just looking at the huddle there, they're going to be well psyched up, and I'd say they're going to tear into it, but you'd have to fancy maybe Cooper and Michael Frank Russell might just have too much. But the big experiment is Eamon Fitzmaurice. We're all looking forward to seeing what he does at number 11.
Referee gets them underway. The great rivals Cork and Kerry, and straight away Darragh O'Shea trying to put the Cork defence under a certain amount of pressure, and Mike Frank Russell gets a touch on that one. He claims that it was a Kerry ball, but there was no doubt I think about it. Line ball for Cork. The crowd still filtering into Páirc Rinn for this Allianz National Football League game, and straight away Cork bearing down on goal. They've won the free as well, and I can expect that a number of players this evening, Ray, will decide to carry this ball straight in, as indeed Conor McCarthy did there to win his free.
Very much so. They're going to tear into it. There's a few big changes here actually. Noel O'Leary's gone up left half forward. He's on Tomás O'Shea, and Kevin McMahon has gone into midfield, so Billy's probably trying to change it on, but as you said, they'll take it into the tackle and try and win a free.
First opportunity for Cork. Splendid setting, the lights of Mahon in the background, but the rain still teeming down. And that one looks as if it's drifting right and wide. The game's first wide. You'd like to get those ones immediately, but it doesn't always work out like that for you. Daniel Goulding, the man who took it.
Yeah, it was quite a poor effort. He put it wide in the wrong side of the goal, but you know, I'm surprised he didn't maybe take it from his hands. When the grass is that shortly cut, it's difficult to rise it from the ground.
For Kerry, Diarmuid Murphy. Well, he replaced Kieran Cremin for this match, as indeed he did for the McGrath Cup final, which was also played on this ground. Cork again getting possession, and out there in the centre of the field it looked as if it was Noel O'Leary who went down. Took a bit of a knock as he was going down there. He's moved from his wing half back position. Kevin McMahon has gone into the centre. Just went down and fell awkwardly.
Yeah, they went up there, and I think Eamon Fitzmaurice is there to add a bit of power and add a bit of strength there, and obviously he's going to try and stop Ger Spillane coming down. But there's a lot of changes. It'll take 10 or 15 minutes, I think, to settle down, Kevin. You know, it's going to be helter-skelter till then.
Jack O'Connor was concerned after their defeat in Tralee, but he's created a few surprises this time, but none of them is Mark O'Shea going forward and doing what he loves to do, thumping that ball into the full forward line. Mike Frank Russell in there once again. Darren O'Sullivan, they're talking about him as the new Paul Galvin. Colin Cooper Nice play, Declan O'Sullivan. Delicate little ball inside, real danger for Cork. And Alan Quirk was fast off his line there. Kevin McMahon will complete the clearance. Graham Canty, solid as a rock at full-back always. He's under a bit of pressure now. He's put himself under a little bit of pressure. Ger Spillane, he's done so well in the McGrath Cup and in the first round of the league, has looked impressive at centre-back. And Cork now with a little bit of space to go forward. Ger Spillane this time. Kerry defence. A little bit at 6s and 7s there, and that was the result of the fact there was a little bit of panic there. The man who felt it in the end was Fintan Gould, but there was a little bit of indecision. Kieran Donaghy came back and Tom O'Sullivan went for it, but it's going to be an opportunity for Cork.
Yeah, there's a good opportunity here for Kevin O'Sullivan. Tom O'Sullivan, no namesake but no relation, I assume, came in quite hard there. I'm surprised he didn't get a tick from that. There's an opportunity obviously for Kevin to put them on. Actually there is going to be a yellow card, and deservedly so, because Tom pulled, the ball was down there, but there was definitely a hand involved. Good opportunity for Cork to settle, and you'd have to imagine the first yellow of the game.
So Tom O'Sullivan becomes the man. He gets the first yellow, and it's going to be Kevin O'Sullivan. 15 points in competitive games so far this year for the corner forward. This could be number 16. Hits it well, crisply, straight over the crossbar. Good score, and Cork, more than anything else, needed that. They needed to settle.
Very much so, and he stuck it quite well. You know, it's easy to say Cork are an understrength team, carry ball the big names, but as a local rivalry, I think form goes out the window to a certain degree. I'm sure Billy has them well psyched up. I'm sure there's paint coming off the walls in there. So it should be an absolutely humdinger of a game, one to look forward to.
It's the 5th competitive meeting of these great rivals in just over a year. Cork won last year's league meeting and this year's McGrath Cup final. And of course Kerry won their 2 championship meetings. Cork in possession once again. A half-back line with Kevin McMahon, despite the fact he's wearing number 12, playing back there. Graham Canty, that's a huge kick from Graham Canty into that forward line. Kevin O'Sullivan once again holding it up, looking for support. That's a great little dodge inside from Kevin O'Sullivan. Chance of a goal. The sides, I thought he would put it over the crossbar, but in fact he clipped it and it just went outside that upright, but that was a great move inside from him.
Yeah, Kevin has given Mick McCarthy a run around there. As you can just see here, he does everything very, very well. Maybe just a bit cheeky at the end where he chips it over. Probably should have just punched it over the bar. I think he might have been even tempted to chip it into the net. But Jeremy Murphy has 2 All-Stars in the bag 2 years in a row. That's not going to happen. But great pace. The ball is very, very fast. And he did very well on McCarthy there, who got an All-Star this year as well.
Confident player, going for goal. Even more confidence in that delicate little chip. It didn't quite work, and it becomes a second wide for Cork. They have possession again, but fouling on the far side. Morris Deegan quite clearly indicating. Brosnan in shot for a moment, but Eamon Fitzmaurice to Dara O'Shea. Dara O'Shea storming through. Great long ball inside. Cork defence getting back as quickly as they can, and Colm Cooper on the ground has won his free. Colm Cooper looked almost bemused there by the manner in which he ended up on the ground, but the referee, no doubts whatsoever.
Yeah, Kieran O'Connor got a bit close to him, but to be fair, you know, I think he just held his ground. A bit harsh, he brought the knee down there, fair enough. So Deegan is obviously trying to stamp his authority. I suppose in light of what happened in Omagh last week, every referee is going to be a bit strict this weekend.
They certainly will be. And the opportunity for Kerry, and that one's gone screaming off to the right hand side and wide. Well, Mike Frank Russell, flawless a week ago. 6 points he scored then from frees, but doesn't catch it right today.
No, very poor effort. We just saw in shot there Jack O'Connor turning away in disgust. There's no excuse for that really. He did score 6 points from frees last weekend, but they were all from frees, and he had a significant amount of wides as well, so I'm sure Jack wasn't too impressed with that effort.
Well, if there is perhaps some mitigating factor, it's in the rain that is pouring down here. It had been a good dry afternoon, conditions look to be ideal, hardly any breeze whatsoever just before throw-in. And then about 20 minutes before the match started, it just started to pour down at that stage, and it hasn't stopped since. Cork lead by a point. Dara O'Shea got a hand onto that one, but it's run loose. Kerry have plenty of men back though. Tomas O'Shea, that's a huge thump from Tomas O'Shea into that full forward line again. Route one for them. Mike Frank Russell just about stops it from going out, and Colm Cooper was unhappy, I think, with the decision that decided in the end it had gone out, so it's going to end up as a wide. But that was a massive kick from Tomas O'Shea.
Yeah, driven in well. They're playing the 2 guys inside, Russell and Cooper, and they're trying to leave space. Declan O'Sullivan's dropping out ever so slightly, and Eamon Fitz is dropping towards midfield. So trying to isolate the 2 guys. It's a lonely place when you're in marking those. With quality ball, they'll do damage. But when the ball is so wet and it's so slippery, sometimes it can skid off that extra bit, which gives the defender a chance.
Goalkeeper Alan Quirk seems to have nailed down the number 1 jersey, even though Kevin O'Dwyer is in the subs for this evening's match. And that's a good drive from Alan Quirk. Made a marvellous save against Tomás O'Shea in the McGrath Cup final, but Dara O'Shea once again dominating in the centre of the field. Kerry moving crisply. Darren O'Sullivan, nice triangle of passes. Declan O'Sullivan thought about the shot first of all, decides that discretion is better than valour, and Owen Brosnan has it now. They're making hard work of it though. Darren O'Sullivan worming his way through, plenty of defenders back there. It's good defence, and once again, despite the fact that Owen Brosnan gets inside, that goes way across, and it might just be kept in this time by Mike Frank Russell, but I think the umpire had spotted that it had gone out. It becomes a 3rd wide for Kerry.
Yeah, Brosnan, the shape of the team is slightly gone, Kevin, because Brosnan is on the wing. I think they'd be better off to play him at 11 and get a number 12. I don't expect the Eamon Fitzmaurice experiment is really going to work. You're taking Brosnan out of his natural position, playing him on the wing. He's not as effective there, and I wouldn't agree with it.
There have been so many experiments of this nature. Jack O'Connor will know that. He tried Tomás O'Shea in midfield last week and then decided to return him to his half-back natural territory, his natural habitat. Kieran Donaghy, big man in the centre of the field. Darren O'Sullivan, this time with a little bit of space, a little bit of pace as well. But there's plenty of players back goal side off him. He played for it, he just kept going until eventually he knew a hand would come in at him, and in the end it did. I suppose you'd have to say it was one he played for.
Yeah, he uses pace very, very well there. His pace seems to be causing Sean Levis a bit of trouble. He takes it in. You'd have to count his steps there now. There might be an extra few here, but you know, it's a harsh call. I thought he maybe took a little bit. That's Kieran O'Connor's 2nd foul, so he has to be a bit careful here, but this will level it up now.
I think will be taken by Colin Cooper, and Colin Cooper has no trouble whatsoever. Gets his opening point of this game, levels it up for Kerry. And Kerry had quite a lot of possession that they weren't making that good a use of. Good defence from Cork generally.
Yeah, working hard, but obviously they'll have to try. Michael Shields and Dermot Hurley, they'll have to try and get a bit of ball, because it's taken 9 minutes for Kerry to score, but they've had most of the possession. So I'm sure that Robert O'Mahony, Kevin O'Sullivan and Daniel Goulding would like to get a bit of ball up there. One noticeable factor at this stage is that Kerry are winning all the breaks.
Alan Quirk will probably be looking around now and deciding if he can change that by pinpointing the direction that he's going to send this one in. Billy Morgan hasn't been giving any instructions, but he is keeping a very close eye on proceedings. That's very, very high again. Well, Kieran Donaghy had a hand onto it there, and in fact he'd also a hand on the back of one of the Cork players. Kieran Donaghy, he went from Tralee Tigers to the Underdogs, and now the Munster's Top Cats, and that one's a little bit loose. It's gone way over the far sideline as well. So an opportunity for Mike McCarthy, player who said one of his best football memories was actually a Kerry Cork match, but strangely enough it wasn't senior, it was at minor, 1996, when Cork were tipped to win the Munster minor and Kerry won it. Back they go for it. Michael Shields did well. Michael Prout, they're building better this time. Michael Shields, a long ball inside. It's all very, very tight there. That's good football from Cork, and once again it's the straight run through the centre. The referee this time doesn't blow up, very similar to Darren O'Sullivan. In fact he had blown, and it's Daniel Goulding who might go for the shot from there. But once again the man tumbling through was Fintan Gould, and Fintan Gould went down similar to Darren O'Sullivan.
Yeah, well, if you take the ball into play at speed, it's very, very difficult for the defenders to stop that. How do you stop it in Gaelic football? Very difficult. At speed, take the lap.
So Daniel Goulding scored a goal against Offaly in the latter stages of that game, with a bit of a better picture on the scoreboard, but that's a poor one as well. It's gone way left and wide. Now he's had 2 bad efforts at this stage. You think even now Billy Morgan might decide to go for someone else?
Yeah, 2 bad efforts. One wide on the right hand side, one on the left hand side. In games like this, these are very, very important. Missing frees like that, it's very poor psychologically for the team, because you know you think there's opportunities and it doesn't happen.
Well, to mark Setanta Sports broadcasts of the live Allianz National Football League action, Setanta Sports is offering a free subscription to any Kerry or Cork GA clubhouse. The offer is for clubhouses that have Sky Digital, and to cover all the action here on Setanta Sports, if your club would like to, well, you can now text SS to 53539, but do it very quickly before the end of the programme. Kerry attacking once again. Colin Cooper inside, great chance for the goal, and Colin Cooper knocked off it. The appeals will go on, but the defenders crowded him, and in the end he was off balance when he hit it.
Yeah, just here as you see, Kieran O'Connor got caught on the wrong side of him. Cooper did very, very well. He used his pace. He's a super player. And, you know, I think it was a fair decision to let it go. He had his shot. That's how it is.
Kerry have had 4 wides, and Colm Cooper, who got their only score so far, looking for the top right-hand corner. Ben Canty cheering it almost over to the right-hand side into the terrace. But the rain hasn't ceased. It's difficult for those players. It's going to be low scoring. It's that kind of night, that kind of feel to the game. It wasn't high scoring when they met in the McGrath Cup final either. 1-9-6 was the final score then in favour of Cork. Kerry coming again now. Kieran Donaghy winds himself up for the shot. It's danger for Alan Quirk. He did well again. He favours the punch, and it works well for him this time, with Graham Canty picking up the loose possession. But it looked very, very dangerous. And Graham Canty almost lost control and did eventually. Mossy Lyons goes in and wins that ball well. It'll come to Ger Spillane though, and Ger Spillane, well, the crowd don't agree with the fact that the referee has awarded the free in, but Kieran Donaghy lobbed it into the danger area.
Yeah, Quirk is doing very well. He's broken that. Cork have a major difficulty. They're not able to bring the ball out of the defence. All the plays inside the 45 of, you know, the Cork half. So unless they can try and get a bit of ball up to the inside men, they're going to be in difficulty. As you said though, with a night like this, it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think we're going to get 115, 114 tonight.
Mike Frank Russell, he certainly is going to get one. That's his first, and for the first time in this game, Kerry go in front. It's taken them almost 14 minutes. An easy enough free for him.
Yeah, an easy free there. You would expect him to pop it over. You know, the game is settling into a bit of a pattern now, whereby Darragh O'Shea in particular and Kieran Donaghy are dominating midfield. So there's going to be oceans of possession going in there, and it's very, very difficult for the full back line to keep it out.
In the last few minutes, most of the action has been around the centre of the field, has been stopped and headed back in towards the Cork goals. And no doubt Alan Quirk will try to find somewhere that he can deliver this to. He's going way out onto the far side, but it's Mossy Lyons that has it. He was just hanging on there for a moment. Eamon Fitzmaurice going a little bit deeper perhaps than he should be in this occasion. There's a nice little ball inside as far as Mike Frank Russell. Mike Frank Russell now soloing up into that corner, very close to that end line. He has the strength though to hold that ball up. Declan O'Sullivan now can use either foot, but Kerry again being forced back by some very good Cork defending. Colm Cooper, they're way out the field now. Eamon Fitzmaurice, Darren O'Sullivan, enough of this, he says. He goes for the score and way to the left hand side and wide, but Kerry were trying to be patient, but in the end the Cork defence got the better of them.
Yeah, well, Cork have so many bodies behind the ball, it's unbelievable. They have a few changes made. Michael Shields, under 21 star, has gone to wing back. Noel O'Leary's up as a half forward, and Kevin McMahon have gone to midfield. But at the moment Darragh O'Shea and Kieran Donaghy are lording it, so unless Billy Morgan can come up with some plan, we're going to have a one-sided game here.
Well, if you look at these stats so far, that's the number of possessions that have gone inside the opposition's 45. Cork have carried the ball in 5 times. They've had 4 shots and scored just 1 with 3 wides. Kerry, well, they've carried it in 9 times and they've had 6 shots, 2 scores and 3 wides, so somewhat similar.
Yeah, but the key thing there is that Kerry have been inside 9 occasions, and Kerry are very, very dominant in the middle of the field, in the half-back line.
Owen Brosnan, that was a great tackle, gets possession of that ball. Mossy Lyons on the outside overlapping. Kerry dominating around the centre of the field and winning any loose ball in the half-back line as well. Declan O'Sullivan, Noel O'Leary back there. Cork really are bringing everybody back. Declan O'Sullivan again from 45 metres out, thought again about this shot, decided that he'd play it inside, and this time Colm Cooper is the one who was adjudged to have fouled. And referee Maurice Deegan decides that it's going out, but it must have been 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, Kieran O'Connor got in front. Colm has nothing to be arguing about there. One thing that's a wee bit noticeable tonight is he's quite lippy as regards to the referee. Cooper, when he's on his game, moves very, very well. It looks like Cooper's either got a tick or a yellow there for his verbals.
And the referee there just perhaps with a little bit of a warning early on in this game to make sure that players know that he's the boss. Had a stormy day in the Ulster Championship earlier on this year, or last year I should say, in the quarter-final replay between Armagh and Donegal. So he doesn't want a repeat of that. Ball to the centre of the field, and again Kerry win the loose possession. Eamon Fitzmaurice, he'll hold on. Ger Spillane can't get a hand onto him. Kieran Donaghy, well, he just tried to be a little bit clever there, Kieran Donaghy. It didn't work for him. And
Yeah, he dummied solo to himself really. To be fair, Kevin McMahon got in there. That looks like there might be another tick or yellow. So obviously Maurice Deegan is going to set down the law. You'd wonder, was there a dictate from headquarters that everyone was going to be very, very strict this weekend? It's good to see him reining in Colm Cooper, because sometimes the Stars can get a little bit away with it. It's not good for Colm on live television to be seen to be giving cheek to the referee.
Yes, Kieran Donaghy does in fact get a yellow card. That's the second yellow card that we have in the game. Thomas Sullivan picking up the first one for Kerry. And Cork now with a rare opportunity to get this ball inside the Kerry 45. They've been defending for the last few minutes. Daniel Goulding has it now. This is better, and Daniel Goulding might just have flipped it over. He has. Well, I suppose his confidence wouldn't have been all that high after the two missed frees, but that was a good response from him.
Very, very good response. It's taken 14 minutes since the first score with Kevin O'Sullivan, but to be fair, they're very, very economical up there. Anytime that goes up, they seem to have the pace. He caught Tom O'Sullivan wrong side, and a fine finish. Maybe they should take the frees off of him and let him just take his scores from play.
Well, if you've enough possession, you won't have to worry about that. The sides are level, just over halfway through the opening half in Páirc Rinn, Division 1A National Football League 2006. Noel O'Leary in 2 minds, in 3 minds, and gives away the possession. Declan O'Sullivan cuts in so well and loves to lay that little low ball inside there. Great opportunity once again, this one. Surely, oh, that's a brilliant save from Alan Quirk. Absolutely brilliant. Mike Frank Russell bearing down on goal. Seemed to be no trouble for him. Great save.
Yeah, super save. Quirk has been the man of the match so far by a long way. Like, he's had 2 great punches, and that's a wonderful save. Michael Frank maybe should have just slipped it. Great move. Cooper, Brosnan on the run. Michael Frank maybe just a little dummy, and he was in for an onion there.
It's gone for the 45. But the corner forward will know that that's as good a chance as Mike Frank Russell might get in this game. Alan Quirk, he has been very assured so far. This could be the man for the Cork goals for the future. But there still is a 45 for Kerry to put pressure back on Cork. And, a slight delay, people steadying themselves up as this kick is taken. And that one looks as if it might just be, well, down off the upright. Declan O'Sullivan, and Declan O'Sullivan was the first one to respond. The Cork defence were caught ball watching a bit there. They weren't responding as quickly as Declan O'Sullivan, and Declan O'Sullivan just clipped it over the crossbar from the rebound. Very,
very sharp. O'Sullivan, you know, basically what happened, Graham Canty followed the ball instead of following his man. O'Sullivan was very sharp, Cork captain. That puts him into a nice little lead. But interesting, Cork have only had 3 wides, where Kerry have had 5.
Yes, a difference in the wides, and a quick reaction there from the Kerry captain for the second year in a row. He is a great young player, and we have to remember that, despite the fact that he was captain last year, and again this year he's still one of those very young players in the Kerry side. Kerry go back into that 1-point lead, but nothing between these sides at the moment. There might be in possession terms. Cork perhaps are living off scraps at the moment. Last week they had plenty of possession and it didn't work out for them. It's the opposite way around this week. They have possession once again. Michael Shields, he delivered that one well in the end. Michael Prout was ready for it. And it comes to Dermot Hurley. Dermot Hurley uses his strength. Eamon Fitzmaurice chases. Ger Spillane is going forward now, and Ger Spillane decides to throw that ball into that full forward line. Good turn. And Dermot Murphy above the crossbar, I think. Great catch.
Fantastic effort. Dermot Murphy, he's so tall, he's so strong. As I said earlier, he got an All-Star last year and in 0-4, obviously from Kerry 1. But that's fantastic catch. To catch it over the bar like that is a terrific play.
The ball inside from Ger Spillane, the quick turn, and in the end he soared for that one. Great catch. It really wasn't easy for him. It was Robert O'Mahony that got the shot. Robert O'Mahony scored 4 goals in the McGrath Cup this year, 3 against Tralee IT, 1 against Kerry. He'd love to repeat that feat. That's good work from that Cork defence again. Michael Shields ready, alert, waiting for the knockdown. Kieran O'Connor decides he'll take a bit of a run. Conor McCarthy, haven't seen much of him in this game. Kieran O'Connor decides to keep running. Noel O'Leary. And that ball is going to be a Kerry ball. The last decisive pass was the one that the forward wasn't ready for.
Well, it was a poor ball in. He gave no option to the forward at all. He should have popped that outside the forward so he could run onto it. He gave all the advantages to the opposition defender, which is a pity because it was a great move.
Well, Kerry are peppering the Cork goals with huge high ball. Owen Brosnan, has he got enough? But that in fact was a tremendous block. absolutely brilliant. Michael Prout went back, dive, knew he had to make it, otherwise it could have been a score.
Yeah, the Shamrocks man did very, very well. It's a great skill in Gaelic football. Full length dive. Now, obviously, Kerry are going to get the 45 out of it, but it was still a great player. He looks like he might have even hurt his elbow in it, but super long dive. He's from Shamrocks, and it's a great start for him.
Yes, Michael Prout has had a word with the referee just to make sure that he's all right, and he is. Owen Brosnan, big man, lots of power in his kick, and he wonder Michael Prout felt that. The crowd in anticipation of this one, they're just not too sure how it's going to go. Mike Frank Russell will take the 45. And again, the rain is incessant. The crowd are well covered. Mike Frank Russell drops it short. He just, with the standing foot, couldn't get it right. Is it Owen Brosnan that pulls the trigger on that one? But it's gone out to the right-hand side, and while Eamon Fitzmaurice, in fact, got the final shot on it. And Eamon Fitzmaurice hasn't been in the action much up there. He's not really settling into that forward role.
No, it's a big ask. Like he found Gerard Brady very hard to take. Like I played as a defender myself, and then I got pushed up in the latter stages of my career. It's very difficult maybe when your pace is going. Eamon is an All-Ireland, has 2 All-Ireland medals. He played in 1997. You know, he played a long time ago, so it's hard to move up there. Obviously, he's kind of used a bit as a battering ram, but that was a poor miss, really.
Kerry still have that 1-point advantage. Almost 24 minutes gone. It still has been an entertaining enough first half, despite the fact that we haven't had many scores. Really, it's been end-to-end stuff.
It's been end-to-end stuff, and Cork are very, very economical considering the amount of the lack of possession that they're having. But you know, this incessant tide, you know, ultimately if Kerry could get a goal, they'll get a bit of daylight between them.
Declan O'Sullivan again. Nice little pop inside to Darren O'Sullivan. Darren O'Sullivan has a great chance. Perhaps he delayed too long there and gave it away. That's just inexperience, really.
Yeah, he was looking for it outside. You know, he should have probably kept going or else recycled it properly. You know, he's great pace and he did very, very well, as you said last weekend. You know, good defence there. Cork have a lot of bodies behind the ball. He just overplayed the ball. But at one of these occasions, either Cooper maybe or Michael Frank or Sullivan, someone's going to get in. They might just take that opportunity. Cork are living on scraps. The big issue for Billy Morgan is the complete and utter wiping out of his midfield by Doherty and O'Shea.
Will he consider perhaps packing more players in there at this stage, or what can he do to arrest this?
Well, I suppose he has to get Alan Quirk maybe to try and vary his kickouts to a certain degree. Maybe Graham Canty, but if you Robin Peter to play Paul, there's another example of Doherty just sailing up. Tralee Tigers basketballer unopposed. Ultimately, the defence will crack if this incessant pressure continues.
The big two midfielders passing between themselves. Darragh O'Shea in the end giving a loose pass there to Declan O'Sullivan, but ahead of that, Kieran Donaghy, an absolutely superb catch. He just went up into the night sky, almost as high as the lights. What superb fielding.
Yeah, the man's 6'6", so it's very difficult to do much. Maybe Quirk should try and vary his kickouts. Martin McNamara from Galway was a great man to try a few short ones, try and vary the game. Billy Morgan will be happy from the point of view that they've had no play and yet they're only a point down.
Yes, they have some play now. Kevin O'Sullivan perhaps, and the opportunity is spurned this time as well. Conor McCarthy got the final shot in, but it does show though that if you can be patient, if you can defend well, chances will happen. Well, to mark Setanta Sports' broadcasts of the Allianz National Football League action, Setanta Sports is offering a free subscription to any Kerry or Cork GAA club for 1 year. The offer is for clubhouses that have Sky Digital, and of course there will be GAA action on Setanta Sports 5 days a week. So if your club would like Setanta Sports free, text SS to 53539, but do it soon, do it now, do it before the end of the programme. Well, Kerry have possession in their defence through Mark O'Shea back into his more natural position of cornerback, although he can play anywhere. It was his 2005 Munster final position. Kerry now with a little bit of space again in the centre of the field. Eamon Fitzmaurice. Well, I suppose when he was in the centre-back position he'd like to go forward. Now that he's in the centre-forward position he tends to go back. It's in the nature of things. That's all very, very scrappy. Cork might just win it back. And I think this is exactly where the referee needs to stop things building up, and that's the typical situation. People piling in, and he stopped it very quickly.
Yeah, Morris Deegan, he's got good control of it. One thing that might help Cork is Kieran Doherty is on a yellow card and he's inclined to be a little bit verbal. He's a bit lippy for a young player, so maybe they might be lucky and he might get sent off, but at the moment that's the only way they're going to get any possession in midfield.
Darragh O'Shea has it. Speaking of midfield, Declan O'Sullivan. Conor McCarthy makes the challenge, so too Kevin McMahon. Plenty of players swarming around there. Eamon Fitzmaurice takes the tackle, and the sheer weight of the tackle made him spill it away, but Darragh O'Shea, as he just so often does, he reclaims possession for Kerry, sets them moving once again, and Cork though do A little bit of hard work there. Sean Leavis. Now they have their opportunity. Kevin McMahon, Conor McCarthy. Can he hold it up long enough to just get the opportunity? Kevin O'Sullivan. Is it Sean Leavis that's out on the outside? It is indeed. Will he go for the goal? Oh, it just about makes it over the crossbar. Well, he did get a goal earlier on in the McGrath Cup against Tralee, and this one has just sneaked his way over. There wasn't much in it at the end, but that was good overlapping.
Yeah, very good play. Set up maybe by the vision of Conor McCarthy, who saw the overlap. Leavis came at speed. I don't know, was he going for a goal there or a point, but it doesn't matter. We've got level scores here. So what Cork are doing, I don't know, can the viewers fully see it? They have 12 men behind the ball. They're leaving 3 men inside. It's kind of like keep them out, and we'll get a few scores on our side when the chances come.
So far it's been reasonably successful. The sides are still level. We're fast approaching the half-hour mark. Maurice Deegan deciding that the best thing to do there is to throw that one up. But Dara O'Shea, spectacular catch, as we say it, week in, week out. And a few of the players now becoming a little bit excited. Perhaps they've been watching too much television in the past week. But the referee and indeed some of the officials, Jack O'Connor in there telling players to calm things down, absolutely no need for it, and that was sparked off by literally nothing, but then isn't everything.
Yeah, no, it was a throw in which Dara O'Shea normally wins. There's a little bit of huffing and puffing there basically, but there was 1 or 2 slaps thrown, you know. Number 9 there, Dermot Hurley, came in with a bit of a late swing. Like, I think Deegan needs to throw the yellow or 2 again and just try and calm it down, and if someone has to walk, so be it.
Perhaps now would be a good time for him to have a few words. Dara O'Shea seems to have been the one who took the knock, and there's a definite sign of blood there, so that's going to have to be repaired, and the referee now, if he's going to have a word with the linesman, will have to perhaps take some action.
Yeah, Dermot Hurley came in from behind and he took a swing. Now the ball was there admittedly, but it was quite high. Now Jack O'Connor's having a few words with Maurice Deegan, but the swing was there. I would consider it maybe probably a yellow card.
Yes, the referee Maurice Deegan was just over there having a quick look. Jack O'Connor having a word with Johnny Cullity, and if you want evidence, well, blood is evidence.
Yeah, blood is definitely evidence, you can't argue with that. So I think there's going to be a yellow card maybe for both players here, but I guess Deegan has to make hard decisions here. The guy I think was more culpable was Dermot Hurley from Cork. It was his swing, and I think he'll probably just dish out 2 yellows.
It's probably a little harsh on Dara O'Shea. He was more sinned against than sinning. He was in possession of the ball.
Very much so, but like, you know, Paddy Russell found to his cost last week, you have to be strict, you have to lay down the law. It's a bit like, you know, if you don't put a bit of schmuck in young kids, how are they going to react? So I'd say he's going to lay down the law here, 2 yellows, but the next person who steps out of the line, I'd say they'll be joining us here in the commentating position.
Yellow for the midfielders, 1 for Cork, Dara O'Shea, 1 for Cork, Dermot Hurley, and we're going to start with the throw-in, which of course is what caused the trouble in the first place. They're often a flash point when throw-ins are taking place, and we can see straight away that that could be what's going to happen again. This time it's Noel O'Leary and I think Tomas O'Shea for having words with each other. Good old-fashioned shoulders, people letting each other know that they exist, and Dara, the older brother, comes in to have a word as well.
Yeah, Noel O'Leary is a feisty player. He always has been. You know, he tears up the ring, and if you're dealing with Tomas O'Shea, like, you're not going to get much change. So, you know, there's a bit of passion out there, but I think the referee needs to clear everyone away, lay down the law, throw out another yellow card. But there's too many players in that area for the throw-in. There's about 20 players in that area. Deegan needs to get them all away and try and get the game going again. We've lost the flow completely.
It is one of the flaws when you do have to actually restart with the throw-in, because in fact, as you said, it brings too many players into too tight a situation.
Yeah, like, you know, the crowd are getting a bit edgy here. We all are, like, it's hard to keep making chat, but we'll start with another throw in. He should give it free quickly, try and get the ball moved away from there as fast as possible.
He must have heard you, Ray. That's exactly what he's done, and even as he tries that, then other players now are steaming in to try and perhaps sort things out for themselves. We could almost do with a timeout or a half-time here.
It's time to get the tea and biscuits here now. I'd say the lads back in studio are wondering what's all this about. But again, Noel O'Leary kind of got moved in to a certain degree. You know, I think Deegan, you know, he has to lay down the law here and maybe pull the 2 captains in and say, look, I've had enough of this, try and sort it out. The tension is there, the quality of play is poor. You know, we've had a lot of wides, I think 6 wides on one side, 4 on the other. So sort it out and try and move it on.
Well, there's 3 O'Sheas in the team, they used to say. And lots of brothers were playing, you hit one, you hit them all. And we do have a blood substitute for Kerry, and it's Sean O'Sullivan from Cromain who's in. So he's going to be the man who will be into the action for a while at least for Dara O'Shea. Has a little bit of experience again this year. Earlier on they did play 4 matches in the McGrath Cup, and there was a number of players who got their chance. And it's all very tight again, but thankfully it might just be scrambled away. Eventually it is. It's Mark O'Shea who thumps it forward. Now let's see who'll be riled up the most as a result of all of this. Kerry might take the score from it, and Kerry do. Well, it's stormed away, and the man who comes on with his very first touch, it might be pouring rain, but he can walk on water.
Yeah, a great score, great pace. Canty's under a bit of pressure. O'Sullivan comes through and a fine kick. You know, you've heard of great management decisions, but obviously Jack O'Connor is going to take a bit of credit from that one.
The only problem is that we probably have to take him off now again in a few minutes. That's the difficulty of the situation. But the substitute with his very first chance, maybe that's the reason in that nobody picked him up straight away. He got a little bit of extra space. And Kerry go back in front. It's all very tight as we approach half-time though. Kieran Donaghy using his height to get well above them. Good fist forward. Darren O'Sullivan out in front, but look at the number of players around him there. Sheer weight of numbers. Wins the possession back for Cork, and now they're going to try and move it quickly. The conditions played a part there. Cork lucky perhaps to get that back once again.
Yeah, Kevin, I was going to bring you back to Sean O'Sullivan. We've heard of an impact sub, 30 seconds, and he's got 25% of Kerry scores. But you know, Billy Morgan will be pleased. He's playing a swarm defence. It's often what you do if your team is slightly inferior than opposition. Get as many numbers behind as you can.
Conor McCarthy, great ball inside. Daniel Goulding. Now that was good. We talked about perhaps a little lack of experience perhaps, but that was clever. He saw there was very little room to manoeuvre and he did the right thing.
Very much so. He punched it over the bar. We talked earlier about taking the right option. We talked about it last week. He had no options, only to punch it over the bar. He did very well. And considering the amount of possession Kerry have, I'm sure Jack O'Connor is going to be absolutely disgusted. We might turn in at a level game.
Well, they've been level 4 times as Darragh O'Shea returns to the action. Bandaged and ready to resume his position, and indeed it is the man who has scored. And as blood substitutes don't actually count in the game, that means he hasn't actually done anything and won't be recorded as such, which is a bit of an anomaly.
I'm sure our Mayo viewers are getting memories of Willie Joe Patton there when he came on in 1989 with a blood sub. Willie Joe was a great fielder, so is Darragh O'Shea, but there's a bit of pep in it now.
There certainly is. Tomas O'Shea, they're level here in Páirc Rinn. And Darren O'Sullivan goes down. This time he's blown up. It was a case of him making contact with the ball on the ground, I think, this time, because it was down there and he went down after it.
I think he touched it on the ground, really. But the one thing that's very noticeable here, Kevin, I don't know if the viewers fully get it, Cork's confidence is picking up now. They're starting to believe in the system. There's a bit more pep. They come out looking like a team who wasn't that confident, but I'll tell you, they look like they want to upset the bookies now here tonight.
Well, Kerry have taken them on physically, which in a sense is a strange sort of tribute to Cork. They've let them know they regard them as a difficult task, but here come Kerry now. Mossy Lyons. He's got plenty of room to manoeuvre. Is the final pass going to be good? Well, it was all very tight. Michael Prout there was in as much as he possibly could. And we've still got quite some time to go. But another 3.5 minutes to go in injury time. And Mike Frank there just leaving that trailing boot a little bit. Perhaps a little bit of a warning there for the Cork man. And Kerry have possession once again. They'll start it from very near to that sideline. The question is, will they be separated? They both lost first time out this year, and they want something out of this. 1 point, I suppose, would be something if they can get it. Mike Frank there has a false start. Cork, of course, still without their Nemo Rangers contingent. They're getting ready for an All-Ireland Club semi-final. As Mike Frank, again, that hits the upright. This time Graham Canty waits for it and gets there ahead of any of the attackers. They weren't ready for the last one. They were. This time they learned their lesson.
Yeah, it was a fine effort from Mike Frank out on the scene. Came off the post. Obviously Graham Canty was asleep in the first time, but he's fairly awake today. He's bringing a world of ball out. Like, he's been very solid there, like a linchpin. Considering the missing anti-Lynch, that Cork full backline is doing very well, and Proud is impressing in left corner back.
So Cork perhaps growing in confidence. There's plenty of space for this one, and it's going to be Tom O'Sullivan who'll go down onto that ball, and pressure there on Mark O'Shea. They did well between them though. Tom O'Sullivan this time, he'll get the ball, he'll get the free as well. Robert O'Mahony picked up the knock as he tried to make the tackle on him.
Yeah, one thing I was just going to mention there, Kevin, like, you know, with 4 points each, considering that Kerry's the kingdom and the home of football with 33 All-Irelands, and I'm not dissing Eamon Fitzmaurice to a certain degree, like, but you're playing a centre-back who did very poorly last week, let it be said, and they're playing him centre-forward. So, you know, it's a retrograde step in some issues. I see Johnny Cawley over there for me, one of the fine forwards, was very good.
Well, if we look at the possession inside the 45s just once again, Cork have had 14, shots are 9. Now they've managed to balance it out with scores and wides, whereas for Kerry, again, they still haven't made good use of all that.
No, they've owned the ball, like 13 shots, and yet they've only got 4 points. It's very, very poor.
Well, the last time that Kerry came here was just under 2 weeks ago for the McGrath Cup final, and they went home having scored just 6 points. It sent a lot of people in Kerry rushing to the record books to find out when last that happened to them in a competitive game. But Darren O'Sullivan, this is a terrific run from him. This is the kind of pace we know that he's capable of, and that's why he's in this Kerry team, and he wins the free as well. And they're lining up to take this one quickly too. Kerry urgently trying to get a score before half-time to go in with at least a 1-point lead. Declan O'Sullivan, he's going back into the corner and he's overheld it. Now, they haven't been doing that for the last while, and Cork are determined to get the ball back. Declan O'Sullivan might have been a little bit harsh, but the two O'Sullivans, Darren and Declan, showed that they're going to take this one on.
Very much so, but ultimately it shows a little bit of lack of vision, you know, to a certain degree. Like Sean Levis caught up there eventually. Again, you have a little bit of argy-bargy and handbags after it. I prefer for the players to just get on, leave down the ball and move it on. Considering we've got 13, we've 2 teams, 2 of the top traditional teams, and we've got 4-4. Now the conditions are bad, but the pitch is super. 4 points each, and considering the amount of frees, it's a poor game.
Yes, interesting battle going on there between Darren O'Sullivan and Sean Levis. Sean Levis, always good for a score. He's got his points so far today. He pointed against Kerry in the 2005 championship, and Alan Quirk, as we now know that Darragh O'Shea, no problems picking him out in the centre of the field. And Cork, Conor McCarthy couldn't just hold on to the ball in the slippy conditions. Is there another score in this one just before half-time? It looks unlikely, because Graham Canty again is having a powerful display in the full-back position. There's a nice ball up to Robert O'Mahony. Robert O'Mahony with the runner, Kevin McMahon between the 13 and 20s. That's a nice ball to Robert O'Mahony again, and he just didn't get it under control in the first touch, and he's won his free in.
Unbelievable, really unbelievable. It looks like Cork are going to go in leading this game. Considering the amount of possession Kerry have, you'd have to have major issues.
Well, would you be talking about life and the way things go for you at half-time, or would you simply say to your players, you've got to start translating possession into scores? It's simple as that.
Very much so, and they also have to track back. When they break down, they're getting very frustrated with their own game. You can see that in the players. Like, I'll say one thing for Golding, he's a little flyer. You know, he reminds you of a soccer player. The socks are up, but he's a real buzz. They're creating so much space inside. It's very, very for Mick McCarthy to cover the angles.
Well, once again, Daniel Golding has an opportunity. This one a lot easier, a lot simpler, and he makes no mistake whatsoever. He gets 2 points in a row as we approach half-time. In fact, the half-time whistle has blown. A first half that saw the sides level on 4 separate occasions, but at the very death, it's the young teenager Daniel Golding that gets the point that puts Cork in front at half-time. Half-time, Cork 5 points, Kerry 4 points.
Because Kerry absolutely lording possession-wise.
Yeah, Cork have got 5 scores from 15 times inside the Kerry half, if you like, or inside the Kerry 45. That for Cork, that's phenomenal. For any team, that's phenomenal. That's very, very high average. And they've only had 4 wides, so you know Cork would be very pleased with that. Billy Morgan would be very pleased with that on a wet night.
Exactly, yeah. And
lashing rain, it's very good.
Yeah, and for their young team with late changes as well. I mean, it is something that's positive. Whether it'll last 70 minutes is another question. But let's have a look, I suppose, at a couple of the points, because Dan
at half-time, so it looks as if they're going to start as they were.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that. Sean O'Sullivan did enough in the minute he had to come on. I'd maybe bring him wing forward, put Brosnan centre forward, and try and give a bit better shape to it, because going forward I think that's what's going to happen anyway. Well,
straight away it is Darragh O'Shea that has possession, and it's very close, and it's well kept in there by Kevin McMahon. He did well, and the referee spotted the pick-up off the ground. Daniel Goulding scored 3 points in that first half, and just a little worry there perhaps for Tom O'Sullivan, holding the hamstring, so he may not survive for much longer. Is it worthwhile taking the chance? That's what they'll have to decide. Kerry attacking though. Mark O'Shea, they play nice low ball inside, but the problem is that on these slippy conditions, it has to be pinpoint for her to work, as Graham Canty again comes forward and plays good ball into that full forward line. Robert O'Mahony has come skipping out for that ball. Kevin O'Sullivan, there's plenty of movement inside. He decides not to use it. He runs it around to Conor McCarthy. Conor McCarthy plays a nice little ball inside. Great opportunity, and Daniel Goulding came so close to grabbing the goal. But that really was good football and a great inside pass from Conor McCarthy as Kerry try to clear their lines. Dara O'Shea back once again as per usual. That's a big thump crossfield ball. It worked out. Kieran Donaghy read it, and it's left a bit of space now for Eamon Fitzmaurice to go forward. The pace hasn't slackened in this second half. And once again, it's Cork that tidy up at the back though. And it'll be out in the middle of the field where Dermot Hurley has it. Conor McCarthy again. Conor McCarthy again goes for the crossfield ball. A bit more menace, and it's Daniel Goulding once again. Goes for the shot, goes for the point, takes it. Well, he certainly is growing in confidence and things are working for him.
A fantastic score. He's doing really, really well. And Robert O'Mahony's pace, he took it inside, picked it over. Nick McCarthy doesn't look too comfortable under high ball at all. There was a match opportunity there, a match winning opportunity. It was a wonderful block down by Tom O'Sullivan. You talked about his hamstring, he's still doing well, but Goulding is doing very, very well, and he's been picked up now by Tom O'Sullivan with 4 points. He's the key guy. Now on this here, it's a wonderful block down. He just got down brilliantly again, but like an amazing situation where Cork have lost midfield conclusively, and yet they're in the lead by 2.
6 points to 4, Cork in front, and Billy Morgan must be a little happier. Dara O'Shea, so often soaring into the sky, he couldn't hold on to it because he was being fouled. And Tomas O'Shea, he'll drill that in. This one could be real danger. Oh, the chance for Kerry, but that ball runs a little bit loose, and in the end the Cork defence very, very glad to see that ball outside in the hands of Noel O'Leary. But in these kinds of conditions, a big high ball like that, a Bomber Liston type of ball, that really can cause you problems.
It can indeed, but Kerry don't have a Bomber Liston in at 14, so I don't know is it an appropriate ball for them. But the ball is so wet, but Canty is a good player, playing very well in there. Considering, as I mentioned earlier, a man with a few all-stars. Here it comes in. Kieran O'Connor doesn't really know what to do with it. You know, O'Sullivan, basically Darren O'Sullivan and Cooper getting each other's way, and out comes Michael Prout, who's doing very well tonight.
Well, you mentioned they don't have a bomber. Well, there is a man called Adrian O'Connor, and he has a similar type of style, and who knows, he could be introduced a little bit later on. They're talking about him in that kind of vein as Mike Frank Russell has the opportunity now for Kerry. Bring them back to within a single point. Mike Frank strikes it well, and he takes the score. He might miss the odd one, but from left or right foot, he really is a gifted player.
Very, very, very talented player. Like he scored 6 points last week from frees. Again, that's a fine score from a free again. But from play, you know, I think he was a bit sharper a few years ago. Maybe he had a goal opportunity in the first half. To be fair to Quirk, he did very, very well. But most of his contribution at the moment is coming from place balls.
Well, Cork certainly lifted the siege at the start of the second half, but it's normal service has been resumed once again as the pressure is back on them for the moment. But Alan Quirk now, interested to see where he'll try and drift this one. Goes right down the centre. The big men are all there. Kieran Donaghy, another great catch from him. He's right there at the centre of things. That's where he likes to be. Kerry attacking now. Declan O'Sullivan looking for it. This time he gets away from Graham Canty. Uses his pace well. He hasn't got that much support in the centre. He has a little bit behind him. He decides to look for Colin Cooper. It might have been a little bit overhit. It's put him into a difficult position right down there in the corner. But Declan O'Sullivan does what a good captain will do. Goes in, supports him, plays that ball back outside once again. And Mossy Lions, they're going back. This is exactly what happened in the first half as Tomas O'Shea gets the ball across there. But again, Cork well capable of dealing with it. The final pass not really causing them too much trouble as Conor McCarthy goes back there, but now they've got to deliver this ball long. Kieran O'Connor getting caught in possession. He was lucky, and in the end it works out nicely for them as it comes through to Dermot Hurley. Dermot Hurley to Ger Spillane. Ger Spillane up to Michael Shields. Michael Shields now coming through the centre. Oh, this is a great burst from Michael Shields. He's got himself into a huge amount of space. He'll go for the score, and just to the left and wide. He should have done better, but in fact he almost had too much time. It was too much pressure on him.
Yeah, he came up at great speed. St. Finbarrs, as you can see there, he's powering through. He's looking for options. He looks up like a good player. Then he says, look, I'll have a go myself. Just drifted away at the sting of it, like, but great pace. Basically what's happening, I don't know if kind of viewers see it fully. in the last play there was 23 players in the Kerry half in the Cork defence, and the 3 boys stay upside, and then they split like a grenade, break away from the players. Very hard to mark that.
Well, they'll soon have the abacus out just to keep control of the number of players all around this pitch at the moment, because they are moving a lot, and as I speak, it's Mossy Lyons who wins possession and wins the free there, and Darragh O'Shea now will go for the long ball once again. Kerry are leaving an awful lot of space in that full forward line, and it's working for them with Mike Frank back as far as Darren O'Sullivan. He didn't control it well. It looked as if it might have worked out for him there, but Graham Canty had no trouble getting across and cutting it out. So Jack O'Connor will know the second half pattern hasn't changed that much. Kerry winning possession, Cork still getting a few scores. Tom O'Sullivan used his strength to stand up there against Robert O'Mahony and hadn't any real problem in winning that ball, and now Kerry will begin to make the moves through the centre of the field. Mark O'Shea right there in the centre of it all, plays it to Aidan O'Mahony. He's played in every position in the last few years in defence for Kerry. Up to Colm Cooper. Colm Cooper, there's a menace about this move now. Owen Brosnan through and takes the score. Yes, there was real menace about that. You could see the way Kerry were beginning to come like a juggernaut through the centre.
Yeah, great play. To be fair, Aidan O'Mahony took it out brilliantly. Cooper, we've said this before, we've seen goals like this scored. Brosnan comes at high speed, Cooper looks up, he has great vision to find him. It's a 1-2 that's very, very hard to defend against, because if the ball goes in at pace and Brosnan comes at such pace, how do you stop it?
Well, he's a big man, and when he's got that stride going, you really have no chance whatsoever.
No, if you remember a few years ago, he scored a wonderful goal on Enda Murphy in the Kildare keeper. He came at pace and roofed it in the back of the net. A very good response, 6-6 now again, and Kerry's dominance around the middle is beginning to pay dividends.
Well, in fitness terms, Kerry might be just a little behind the rest. They didn't return to training until after their team trip to New York. That was just after Christmas and into the new year. So they obviously have gambled a little bit. Perhaps players needed the rest. Cork now come looking for another score. Well, Conor McCarthy tried to thread that ball through, but it does eventually come to Robert O'Mahony. And Robert O'Mahony, nice ball to Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin O'Sullivan has the support outside him from Dermot Hurley. Darragh O'Shea's back there again, a hand on the jersey. Well, the crowd thought it was going to be blown up. It wasn't, but Cork still retain possession. They still have it. Conor McCarthy, will he go for the shot from there? He will, and it just curls in. Well, I have to say, in past days they talked about Garincha and banana shots, but I'm not sure whether he meant to do it that way, but it worked superbly.
A fantastic score, great balance, great feed. He looks up, goes for the layoff. McCarthy's their playmaker and he's doing very, very well. He's been involved in a lot of the best players. To be fair, Dermot Hurley set it up. He took the right option. It was a free there, the most obvious free of the match. Like O'Shea practically dragged him down, but it worked out for them. McCarthy's doing very, very well now. He's a good link man. Now, if I was Jack O'Connor, I would definitely be going into that dugout and I'd be thinking about making a change or two.
Conor McCarthy, the 24-year-old, he'll be 25 in just 6 weeks' time at the end of March, coming to his prime as Kieran Donaghy. He's just starting out at this level, and that's going to be another respite for Cork. But Kerry under pressure, and out on that far side of the field, an interesting man running the line. It's Paddy Russell, the referee from Omagh last Sunday when the Tyrone-Dublin game exploded. So if Maurice Deegan needed advice, he got plenty of it at half-time.
Yeah, Paddy looked fairly cross there at half-time in the pictures. The moustache was down very low over the lip, and I'd say he's happy to be on the sideline today, taking the backseat role.
Well, he decided not to referee a colleges match, which he was scheduled to referee during the week, but he's back out of hiding now, and everyone is watching him. As once again for Kerry, Tomas O'Shea. The midfield experiment didn't work last week. He's back in half-back. Eamon Fitzmaurice, the jury's still out on his. Declan O'Sullivan skips away from the tackle of Ger Spillane. Eamon Fitzmaurice. Mike Frank Russell. Nice little pass, delicate pass into the corner. Declan O'Sullivan again. Back out to Owen Brosnan. He got the last point for Kerry. Darren O'Sullivan, again that Cork defence masked, making it difficult for them. Owen Brosnan, Kieran Donaghy makes a little dummy run there, and Owen Brosnan goes down in a situation very similar to the one we had here a moment ago that didn't result in a free.
Yeah, a silly challenge, but I suppose they're putting so much pressure. Brosnan is causing the damage here, He steps inside Michael Shields, very difficult, you put your hand in, he goes down, it's a free. But it's a very laboured performance from Kerry in light of the possession. We won't go back to that point again. Considering they've only got 7 points, a fair few of them frees. Jack O'Connor, there's not an awful amount of fluidity to the play.
Colm Cooper, conditions haven't improved. Hits it well. No difficulty whatsoever, although you might expect that in these kinds of conditions You could expect it might slip one way or the other. Gets it right on the meat. Good score.
Left to right foot, he's a great player. As I said last week, he's got an all-star in 1997. Oh sorry, that's Cooper. I was thinking of Michael Frank. Cooper's a super player. That puts them level again. Cork will be happy enough. They're like a team that might be playing for a draw, but anyone that gets a goal in this one, Kevin, you'd have to fancy that they'll come home with the points.
Well, there are a number of people out there this afternoon or this evening who can score goals. We've seen them come from Robert O'Mahony for Cork and Daniel Goulding, and well, you have your pick of the Kerry forward line really, or indeed their midfielders as well, as Alan Quirk drives it closer to this side of the field. It'll break loose. Cork will have it once again. Michael Shields, loose one from Ger Spillane. This will give possession back to Kerry. That really was a bit of danger for them. Mike Frank Russell now. Michael Prout trying to get goal side off him. He's done well. He's bringing him down along the end line. Mike Frank back towards Eamon Fitzmaurice. Eamon Fitzmaurice, as the whistle goes and the referee has indicated it's going to be a free out. So again, Cork not giving way. If Kerry could get a couple of scores ahead, you might feel that they would break, but there's no sign of that.
No, very, very regimented and disciplined performance by Cork. They're getting a lot of bodies behind the ball. Gaelic football has changed considerably with Tyrone and Armagh playing extra men behind the ball. We often talk about 7 or 8 in defence. On occasion here we have 12 in defence. And the confidence, that cross-field pass to the goalie, that shows that confidence is improving.
Confidence, sometimes referred to as madness in these situations, but it works out very, very well. What did the coaching manual say? As Noel O'Leary, I think, was the one who felt the full brunt of that. He's gone down. Cork attack. The ball is in space. It's attacked though by Mark O'Shea. There's a nice ball into Tomas, the brother. On to Eamon Fitzmaurice. Ger Spillane is chasing him a lot. Darren O'Sullivan, he darts through there. Low centre of gravity. Goes for the corner. Sounds more like Tony Ward of past days. And Colm Cooper, well, a bit of oddness from Colm Cooper there as he drilled that ball away. Most unlike him, normally cool, normally calm. And Cork are going to make a change, and that change for Cork is going to be Alan O'Connor, and Colm Cooper will probably be booked for that. It wouldn't be any surprise whatsoever. It was a foolish thing to do. Frustration perhaps. He hasn't played that much football this year, but he is getting the yellow card, so Colm Cooper gets a yellow card.
Yeah, basically you got a tick in the first half for petulance, and there's another example. I suppose if you're the cornerback Kieran O'Connor, you're delighted to see that because he's getting very, very annoyed. It came up really, what caused it was, Darren O'Sullivan's a very exciting player, but he does go into cul-de-sacs. He took off there for the corner flag. It was never going to work out. He tried to recycle it, but Cork to me are just playing a very cagey game at the moment. They know, I think, that they're an inferior team in some regards, and they're playing defensive, and it's working for them at the moment.
Who will get the breakthrough? Aidan O'Mahony. That's a huge kick from Aidan O'Mahony. If it comes in, it'll be a wonderful one. It doesn't. It's gone to the right and wide.
That's actually an example of the frustration. That you've the centre back coming up the field there having a punt because the inside guys aren't working. It's very hard for Cooper, Russell and O'Sullivan when there's such tightness in there, when you've that many bodies behind the play. But I think it'll be interesting to see can Alan Quirk vary the kick out to a certain degree. But it's a game that could end up 11-10, 12-11, that kind of stuff, or even 12-12.
Alan O'Connor is the man who's coming on, and Robert O'Mahony is going off. Robert O'Mahony has buzzed a lot, but he hasn't had an awful lot of sting in this game, and so Alan O'Connor will have the opportunity. We remind you once again that to mark Setanta Sports broadcasts of the live Allianz National Football League action, Setanta Sports is offering a free subscription to any Kerry or Cork GAA clubhouse. That's for 1 year. The offer is for clubhouses that have Sky Digital. There'll be a lot of sport, a lot of GAA action on Setanta Sports 5 days a week, so if your club would like to be in, you can get it for free. Text SS to 53539, but do it immediately. Mossy Lions coming forward for Kerry. Darren O'Sullivan. It's a lateral approach that comes to Kieran Donaghy. Kieran Donaghy goes for the big one, and Kieran Donaghy gets it. Well, so often it's the midfielder who has to come from deep to find the space to take the score.
Yeah, a fine kick from Donaghy, set up by Darren O'Sullivan, good vision, overlap. And he steadies himself. You can see him steady himself there. He pops it over from 40 yards. Fine kick. The most significant thing is it gives Kerry the advantage. Here again from the back leg, good hook kick over the bar. Fine score. But the game that Cork are playing lets them get into this situation where if Kerry can just pull 1 or 2 away, how are Cork going to counteract that? Because they have no possession, so how are they going to score?
Disappointed Robert O'Mahony in the dugout now, having been replaced by Alan O'Connor, so it'll be no longer his ability that'll change this game. this evening. But now it is Kerry in front. Will they pull away? Is there something in Cork still at this stage? The line ball is taken somewhat prematurely, so it'll have to come back and they'll take it again. And it looks like it's going to be Michael Shields that will take it for them. They're not just happy on the sideline with all of that. In fact, it's gone the other way. Well, everyone assumed that it had been a Cork ball, and that's why there was a lot of dispute. And Colm Cooper now, real danger here. Colm Cooper, surely he'll get space. Oh, that's a great piece of manoeuvring. Twice he sold dummies, and it was that simple in the end. He'd plenty of space, near goal, simple point.
Yeah, like look at his balance, look at his feet there. He looks one, he looks over, he looks stretched. Unmarkable, he switches, he dummies him inside. We saw that last week. He does three or four people there to score. We talk about Diego Maradona, we talk about George Best. Maurice Fitzgerald was one of the last class forwards that we saw, 9 points in 1997, but he was brilliant there now, Cooper.
Kerry have opened up a 2-point margin as a result of that little bit of wizardry from Colm Cooper. Now Alan Quirk knows that defence won't be any good to them. They've now got to get a few scores. They're 2 adrift. We're fast approaching the halfway mark in this second half, and it is difficult in these conditions. Players slipping, finding it difficult to hold on to the ball, as we saw. That was a little bit late. Referee didn't seem to indicate that there was anything wrong with it. The Cork supporters not happy. They have possession out there in the centre of the field, and now this perhaps could be a good move for them. Graham Canty is going to drive them forward from that full-back position into the centre. Michael Shields, Graham Canty again. Well, I'm not too sure if he knows quite what to do with it up there, but the triangle of passes give it to Kevin O'Sullivan. That's a huge kick from Kevin O'Sullivan. It's not going to stay inside the upright. But Kevin O'Sullivan did exactly as he should have done, while at the other end, Sean Leavis is down.
Yeah, Graham came up there at pace, you know, but it's kind of desperation stuff, really. When you see the full-back chasing up like that, that's fine maybe with 5 minutes to go. Cork in a difficult situation now. They're 2 down. Their heads have dropped ever so slightly. They don't seem to have as many ideas. Once Cooper gets it, he's the difference. But you know, Billy's out in the field now trying to reorganise things, and they probably do need a change, and 1 or 2 changes at this stage.
Well, they were living off scraps, as we knew from the first half, but is there much they can do now, because they really have been pushing their luck for a long time?
Very much so. Like, you could see maybe Kerry getting in for a goal here. The only options I can say, sorry, here, you can just see the overlap here. Levis leaves it, and there's him and Fitz. He's a little bit late now, all right, you'd have to say, maybe a yellow card. Again, very similar to maybe Stephen O'Neill's challenge that got him an unfortunate red card in the Ulster final last week. But Eamon's a big, strong guy. He came in there, and on the other side there we have Kieran Donaghy down as well, but I think both guys are going to be fine to continue.
Well, I count that as 5 yellow cards for Kerry so far. So if people thought there wouldn't be much grit in this game, they were very wrong. But Kerry, as they think about making a change, I think it's going to be Sean O'Sullivan. You would feel that a man who had the impact that he had in the first half, there'd be no trouble putting him in again.
Yeah, obviously, you know, I'm sure he's very keen to get back in there. You know, he played very well there a few years ago. If there was to be a change, you know, where could you put him? You could probably put him wing forward, and as I said, switch in Brosnan to midfield. But I think Cork are going to they have to try and get a score quickly now, because if they go 3 or 4 behind, they're going to find themselves in an impossible position.
Eamon Fitzmaurice, again the little low ball there, but Graham Canty, whether he's going forward or he's reading it in defence, he's having a very, very good game for Cork. He has it once again. He's looking for men, his vision is good, he keeps his head up, he picks out players that are running in support of him. Conor McCarthy's the one that does it this time, goes for the long ball through there, but again no problems for Mark O'Shea. And to the eldest of the 3 brothers, Dara, Kieran Donaghy will be a man who'll be very happy with his performance. He's made some big catches, he's been involved a lot, did something similar against Mayo without as much reward perhaps. Eamon Fitzmaurice again. Kerry slowing it up, but they're teasing that Cork defence, perhaps asking them to come out a little bit further. Aidan O'Mahony going forward now again. Darren O'Sullivan just couldn't control it first time, but then he found the space to have a second go, and this one has gone over once again. But really Darren O'Sullivan was given an awful lot of space there. The breakdown should have meant that a Cork player got in on him. Yeah, the breakdown should have done, but you know, it was a fine score. Great technique. He's a fine young player. Great technique. Swivel on the right, popped it over to the left. You can see it just here again. It doesn't take too long about it. The back kick isn't too high. Straight over the bar. That puts Kerry into a significant lead, considering it's such a low-scoring game, 10-7. I think Billy, if he has the manpower, he needs to make some changes. 3 points the difference. 15 minutes of normal time left. Darren O'Sullivan came on as a sub in last year's All-Ireland final, and A lot of people were surprised then, but they have great confidence in him in Kerry. They see him as one of the players for the future, and he's showing that again here this evening. Dara O'Shea. Kerry not doing anything spectacular, but they're grinding their way through this Cork defence bit by bit. Mossy Lyons off on the run. He's got a good bit of space up this side. Will he go for the shot himself? It's becoming a tighter and tighter angle all the time. Declan O'Sullivan, conditions beating him there, but he does manage to get it back inside to Colm Cooper, and Colm Cooper will in a leisurely fashion play it back once again. Eamon Fitzmaurice decides no more of this pussyfooting, straight through the centre. Might have overcarried it, has overcarried it. Cork get away with it.
No, I think
in fact it's the other way, is it?
I think he felt the two people. You can just see here, you know, slight bit of foul, but it was a harsh enough one. I suppose Kieran Gardner come in there, just caught him in the back. But that's what Fitz will give you at centre forward. He brings a bit of power and a bit of thing. But like this will probably pop them into a very, very good lead, 11-7 now with Colm Cooper again.
Shouldn't be a real problem for Mike Frank Russell, who will take this one in fact, and he pops it over, and suddenly you begin to feel that there's a little bit of disillusionment perhaps among the Cork supporters. They sense that Kerry are now about to pull away.
Yeah, well, they're turning the screw now, and Cork haven't scored since the 44th minute. They haven't scored for about 13 minutes, so all the last scores have been Kerry. Cork, to me, look bereft of ideas at this stage. There's kind of an air of inevitability arriving to the game. 11-7 is a fine score, and as we mentioned before the game, the bookies, it was 4-5 Kerry, so it looks like it could have been a good bet.
Well, Cork beat Kerry here in Páirc Rinn less than 2 weeks ago in the McGrath Cup final. Then low scoring as well, 1-9 to 6 points. Cork won it, but this is a very different ball game now. The pressure is really on Cork. They trail by 4. That's a tremendous catch. Michael Prout kept his eye on that ball. Superb skills, and he'll now add to the attack as well. He's on the run. He's got Conor McCarthy along with him in support. He's there supporting himself still. Conor McCarthy doesn't use him. That's a speculative ball across. It might well work out now for Kevin McMahon. Kevin McMahon goes through. Will he go for the goal? He decides to take the point. There wasn't much in it. That was a good strike from Kevin McMahon. He ran through well. So Cork, perhaps word of their death is premature.
Yeah, fine one. He took it at speed, but you know, they probably needed that to sink under the bar, Jim Murphy, but he finished it very, very well. Took it at pace, kept his eye on it, took it over the bar. It gives them an opportunity, but a 3-point spread, in light of what we've said previously, the fact that they're not winning the one ball in the field.
Kevin McMahon taking a very good score, and that perhaps was the best move we've seen from Cork in this game. It was a very flowing move, begun by the great catch by Michael Prout in defence. He supported well, they all did, and a fine score at the end of it. Ball to the centre of the field. Cork have it once again. There's a goal between the sides. Things can change. Kevin McMahon again. Well, Mossy Lyons is after him. Can he get the score this time? It's Conor McCarthy, but it was the boot in of Aidan O'Mahony there, I think, who decided to kick that one to safety rather than take any chances with it. And the referee has indicated, I think, that there's going to be a free in this time. But it was Aidan O'Mahony who went for it, as there's going to be a change made as well, with Darren O'Sullivan coming off, replaced by Sean O'Sullivan. So Sean O'Sullivan, who had that few minutes in the first half when he came on and scored the point, that won't be any damage to them now. He's a bigger, stronger player perhaps.
Yeah, like Darren O'Sullivan is a very young player. He played minor last year, so it's a good opportunity for him. He played last week, he played tonight, but as I said earlier, he goes into cul-de-sac sometimes, but at 19 years of age he is all to learn. He has pace to burn, so it's a good move. It consolidates Kerry's position at this stage.
The Setanta Sports big screen is exactly where he wants to put this one. He's looked at the posts. Fintan Gould, and Fintan Gould strikes it. That is a lovely kick from Fintan Gould. He shaped himself very well for that. He didn't try to kick the leather off it. He drifted it in superbly and right between the uprights.
Fine score, great kick considering the positions. You know, it's going to give us a deadly last 10 minutes anyway. The buzz is back in. Great score. They haven't scored for 14 minutes and they're after scoring 2 now in a row, which is good.
And inside the 45, possession is interesting at this stage, but look, Kerry have had so much more possession in that area, but still this game is alive despite all the stats.
Yeah, well, 41-26 tells its own tale. Kerry have dominated it in rugby parlance, like they've owned, or in soccer parlance, they've owned the ball. O'Connell will be a bit concerned about the lack of, you know, conversion of that, but at the same time it means that it's going to be very difficult for Cork to beat them.
Well, Cork had possession of that one and they've given it away, and they've given away a free. Now, there was a certain kamikaze defending there, because it was just a thrown pass which shouldn't have been made, and in the end Kerry now could get the score that matters.
Yeah, Declan O'Sullivan came at high speed. It's a dangerous game that Cork are playing, trying to work it out from defence, because one missed pass can, you know, set up a scoring opportunity here. So there's a good possibility of a score here, but again, as you said, kamikaze defending at its worst.
2 points the difference between the sides. It was Declan O'Sullivan who got the knock, and the yellow card looks as if it's going to Michael Prout. There was a bit of a delay there while he was talking to the referee. Perhaps he was spelling it for him, but Michael Prout gets the yellow card. The third yellow card for Cork. And once again, as the players tumbled in just a little bit late on the tackle, Declan O'Sullivan recovered, but this should be an easy enough tap over one for Mike Frank Russell. Mike Frank hits it very, very high, but hits it superbly. He just curled it in right to left. Ideal conditions or not, great free taker.
Yeah, he scored three from frees in the second half and 1 from the first half, so 4 from frees. He got 6 last week. You know, he's deadly on the left and right foot. From general play, as I said previously, he's being spectacular, but he has done very, very well.
Billy Morgan won't be happy though. That free was literally handed to them just after Cork had got themselves into a challenging position.
Yeah, they'd come from a good position, they'd worked themselves back, but now they're, you know, 3 points behind again. So from that point of view, Billy won't be happy, but in light of the fact that his reserves have been very, very tight, it's a fighting performance, but ultimately, as I said previously, it's hard to look past a Kerry victory. They just have too much power and too much talent at the moment.
8 minutes of normal time left. Still only one score, a goal between them. Kerry pouring forward now, looking for the score. There's a lot of movement in that full forward line. Tomas O'Shea spots some of it, but the defenders read it well there. I think it was Michael Prout who got the knock. I'm not too sure if it came off him or if it came off Mike Frank Russell. He got the knock as well as getting some contact on the ball. And Michael Prout is down on the ground, but he was a moment ago on the big screen as well. Great colour here, and the dark skies over Mahon as Michael Prout, larger than ever, larger than life certainly, runs back into his position, and every time that screen goes on, people leave the pitch and look at it. Well, their eyes do certainly. That's the effect it has. It's mesmerising. We're watching the pitch though. Cork come attacking. Is there a goal in this for Cork? Conor McCarthy gets the knock from Aidan O'Mahony. He takes it quickly. There's a bit of movement now. Good ball outside. That's a nice score. Is that curling in? Oh, it's just gone right and wide from Fintan Gould. But that would have been a great response to the point from Kerry.
Yeah, he popped it over, just forced the shot ever so slightly, but a good effort. But again, Cork are living on such scraps. One point that I think I've been very impressed with tonight, Kevin, is Maurice Deegan's refereeing it. We had a few handbags, but there was nothing he could do. The referees with a smile on his lips, he goes in there, checks some players. The players respond very, very positively to that, and he has been very, very impressive at the moment tonight.
Perhaps that's the trick. Perhaps some of the Cork supporters have decided that this is a hopeless cause. Maybe they're going out the back to say a prayer to St. Jude. Cork have won the free. It isn't over until it's over though. Conor McCarthy, they're still going forward, they're still getting opportunities. Tomas O'Shea, he won't give them too many. Back as far as Tom O'Sullivan, seems to have shaken off that bit of a niggle he had in the first half. Dara O'Shea. Declan O'Sullivan, he's a long way from the goals. He'll twist and he'll turn till he finds the space. Well, it didn't look as if that was going to be a completed pass. It ended up with Aidan O'Mahony though. Aidan O'Mahony going forward more and more in this second half. Declan O'Sullivan. Eamon Fitzmaurice. Cork defence backpedaling. But the pace, this time with Aidan O'Mahony, creates the space. If he clips that over it, that's a fine score. That really was born out of a bit of experience, knowing that if you took your time, kept the passes flowing, the space would open up eventually.
He finished it very, very well. Because Cork are allowing them to draw on, but O'Mahony comes in here, switches it over, centre back, and a fine, fine kick. Now Aidan played last year's final, I think, a corner back, a wing back, so fine score. As you said, experience, looked up, weighed up his options and popped it over from distance. But at the moment, Daniel Goulding, like, he scored 4 points, he's not getting a sniff because there's no ball going up there. So the domination is coming from basically, you know, Kieran Doherty and Dara O'Shea. They're winning everything still.
4 points the margin. Kerry now in front. 5 minutes of normal time left. Cork's little piece of resurgence It looks as if it might have dissipated now. They still have possession though. Kieran O'Connor building it out the far side, but Kerry, there's a bit of extra pace in the way that they're chasing now. Every single man going in to try and stop Cork, building from defence. Michael Prout, he's looked good. Nice layoff onto this side of the field. Alan O'Connor, they've got to run at them now though. And Conor McCarthy has it, he's won his free as well. Conor McCarthy holds it, then decides quick release, and that's Michael Shields. Michael Shields drifts that ball in there in front of the goal, and again the Kerry defence is quick, and no one better than Mark O'Shea to react like that, and then plays a glorious little low pass out the far side of the field to take the pressure off his defence. And then Dara, always back there, always supporting, always helping out his defence. That pass mightn't have been intended, but it ends up with Tomas O'Shea, and Tomas O'Shea finds space on this side. Kerry are beginning to open up. Kieran Donaghy soloing forward, plays it nicely inside to Tom O'Sullivan. They're beginning to come forward in droves now. That ball, the pace of the turf almost beat Mike Frank Russell. He manages to hold on to it and play it back to Kieran Donaghy. Kieran Donaghy might go for another score, he won't. Declan O'Sullivan, he could go for a score from there. Well, there were enough players there to stop him, but one tugged on the jersey, and so Kerry have a great opportunity now to kill off the game. Just a little tug. And Maurice Deegan, who's had a good evening. The book just shown, just the warning, nothing more needed. And he's drifting around the pitch to make his presence felt. As Kerry now can really drive the final nail into the Cork coffin. And Mike Frank Russell curls this one, but this time the curl doesn't work. Well, to mark Setanta Sports broadcasts of the Allianz live National Football League action, Setanta Sports is offering a free subscription to any Kerry or Cork GA clubhouse for 1 year. The offer is for clubhouses that have Sky Digital, so if you want to see Setanta Sports action, GA action 5 nights a week, you can text now to SS, and that number that you have to text it to is 53539, but you have to do it very, very quickly as this game is almost over. Do it before the end of the programme. Kerry, Aidan O'Mahony driving up the centre. Mossy Lions. There's still a slight chance for Cork, but it's very, very slight at this stage. Kerry seem to have done all the important things. Declan O'Sullivan back to Colin Cooper. Colin Cooper will surely go for the point from there. If he gets this one, it'll be a great finale to this game. It won't be, because it went left and wide, but Colin Cooper right to go for it from there.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying in Gaelic football, a wide is as good as a point. When you're 4 points up with 2 or 3 minutes left, that's fine. You know, you put it dead, it's going to take the pace out of the game. The problem basically for me, from Cork's perspective, and I want to look at Cork for a second, is they've got no ball at midfield. So even though you had someone like Daniel Goulding, who was very, very impressive all the time, he didn't get enough possession. For me, he was very, very impressive from the point of view that anytime he got it, he was dangerous, but his outside men let him down.
The kick out, it was a little bit short, but it worked out nicely for Cork. Sean Levis dwelled a little bit, but it just shows you how determined Kerry are to make sure that they maintain their lead. They're looking for 2 league points. Graham Canty's looking for 1 point. If it curls in, it'll be a great one. Just falls a little bit short. It took a tip there off Dermot Murphy. He had to be sure because he was being challenged for that ball, and there's still the 45 for Cork.
Yeah, they need to get a goal and a point in the time. They're not going to get that time, basically. Like Graham, you know, he's had a fine match at full-back, but he went for it there, but, you know, it's kind of Hail Mary stuff, really. You know, it's kind of like helter-skelter, throw in the kitchen sink, but what's it going to achieve, really? Cork are going to have to improve on this considerably, because of some very tough games. They're playing Tyrone away and Dublin, so if they don't smarten things up, they're going to be down 2B or 2A.
The inscrutable Ger O'Keefe showing a few signs of emotion on the Kerry sideline, as this kick from Fintan Gould again drops a little bit short, clears in, and it's gone out and wide. There was perhaps the slightest chance for a penalty there, but I don't think anybody was claiming.
Absolutely not. Darragh O'Shea went up there, like he caught some wonderful catches against Limerick in 2004 that stopped Limerick, unfortunately, winning a Munster Championship. They would have been there for a long, long time. But, you know, Dermot Murphy, there's a bit of a solidity coming back to the Kerry attack. The whole team is playing very well. Jack will be happy because they're Fermanagh and Monaghan coming up next.
Well, the Cork supporters are speaking with their feet just at the moment, as we've about 90 seconds or a little bit more left. 2 minutes of added time. And Kerry again. Declan O'Sullivan. Is there going to be an icing on the cake for him? Jersey pulled there, and the referee spotted it. It happens so often and frees aren't given, but the referee saw it there plainly and gave the free.
As I said earlier, I've been very impressed with Deegan tonight. He's been very efficient, very effective, doesn't mess around, gets in there. The players stand to respect that, and I think he's had a fine game. If there was a man of the match from the official side of the view, he'd get it. This is an opportunity for Michael Frank now to take his 5th point from play. Daniel Goulding actually is what we're going here with man of the match. I'm basing that basically on the point of view that he scored 4 points anytime the ball came up. He was very, very dangerous. 3 in the first half, 1 the old man. The other options obviously would have been maybe Colm Cooper as well, obviously, but it's nice to maybe give it to the underdog, give it to the losing team for a change.
Well, Michael Shields, the player who picked up the yellow card there, as Daniel Goulding will be named man of the match, and Mike Frank Russell has no trouble popping that one over. And that's so typical of him from those kinds of situations. Missed one a little bit earlier, but now he's put them a clear 5 points in the lead, and there's no doubt whatsoever that it's going to be Kerry that will pick up the 2 points. And so Cork, after losing first time out to Offaly and Tullamore, they're going to be pointless after this one. Kerry did lose first time out to Mayo, and it'll be Cork will be away to Tyrone, I think, next, and it'll be a home to Dublin, so they're going to have a couple of tough games to come in the next while.
Very much so, Kevin.
And Maurice Deegan has decided that in fact the full-time whistle should blow, so Kerry in the end comfortable victory. They'll be very happy with the way things went for them. Eamon Fitzmaurice, who went into the forward line for this game, will be a man who will be happy enough for this performance, but overall I suppose you'd have to say Kerry had the power, Cork were just more hopeful.
Yeah, Cork came, in a containment policy. That doesn't work, They weren't strong enough. Kerry always looked like winning. It was mentioned previously, maybe it was the bet of the week, Kerry to win here. So very, very impressive. 14, they deserved to win. They could have won actually a bit more.
Well, under the lights at Páirc Rinn, the final scoreline: Kerry 14 points, Cork 9 points.
So Kerry grinded out in Páirc Rinn, where it finished Kerry 14 points, Cork 9 points. I suppose, Eugene McGee, currency finally, or possession rather, finally turned into currency for Kerry.
Yes,
but
I
it took a while.
suppose, the Cork forwards got roughly scored one out of every 4 attacks, which, on a night like tonight wasn't too bad, I suppose, but their attacks were very sporadic. They only had 7 or 8 attacks in the whole second half. I think, it took them 22 minutes for the 5th attack to come when Jermaine Mahan got a very good point. So they can't blame the forwards really. I mean, the midfield was a disaster area for Cork all through, and once a forward line is playing behind a disaster midfield, that's the fate worse than death for forwards. I mean, there's nothing they can do. They were reasonably good, and they snapped some nice points, and they didn't have many bad wides. I don't think they set up hardly any goal chances, but then Kerry didn't set up many either. It wasn't a night, I suppose, for goal chances. So I suppose Billy Morgan, the forwards won't be his biggest worry after tonight. But having said that, 9 points isn't a great score. I think it was 1-5 last week, so that's a poor aggregate for 2
and
games.
only 5, Paul, in the second half, or 4 rather in the entire second half. Having said that, a couple of them were fairly decent points. So again, a couple of nice individual performances. Conor McCarthy in particular got a nice point, Eugene.
Yeah, Conor McCarthy got a very good point, because that came after an attack had broken down, and the attack involved Robert O'Mahony, Noel O'Leary and Sean Leveson. It broke down, and it comes out and it looked like a lost cause, but then it was scooped away, and McCarthy was very quick to pick it up and keep his cool and put over a nice left-footed point.
Yeah, Garincha, I think, was mentioned by Kevin in passing.
Well, yes.
And next, I suppose, the only other kind of bright spot within that second half, the Kevin McMahon point brought it back to, I think it was 11 points to 7, and signalled the start of a kind of a minor Cork revival.
Yes, there were a couple of points in a row there, and they got it back to 3 and then to 4. There was a chance there. This one started an attack with Trout winning the ball, and this is a traditional old point, solo run over the bar. Again, barely over the bar. A lot of them were barely over the bar tonight, but that was an encouraging point at that time. It should really have been a rallying point for Cork, but I think Cork were getting fatigued all over the field from their huge exertions in the first half as well, and Kerry became more dominant as the game went on.
Okay. In terms of Kerry's performance tonight, I mean, it obviously wasn't vintage Kerry, but Cooper was again at the centre of it in more ways than one, but as a supplier as well, but in this case, as we'll see, as a finisher.
Yeah, I think the continued dominance at midfield of the Kerry team, you know, eventually wore the Cork defence down. I think Cork did, as Eamon said, or as Eugene said, get tired in the second half, and it allowed, if you like, players like Owen Brosnan to make runs through. Here's Gooch's point, and you know, all the skills of the game, the evasion skills in particular, you know, he sells a dummy on one side, looks up for somebody to pass to, nobody to pass to, then decides to, if you like, take it around another player, and, you know, the benefit of being a two-sided player was really evident there. He's just a class act, you know, and while he's not fully fit, he's probably saying to the crowd, listen, I haven't gone away, and he gives us one of those every week. He gave us a beautiful point last week against Mayo, and another one today, you know, and it's worth the admission money alone to see those type of skills.
That's right, it was honest to God stuff, mainly from Cork, but I suppose the exception to that was Daniel Goulding, who was awarded the man of the match, and I believe he's standing by in Páirc Rinn.
Daniel Goulding, I'm delighted to say that this evening, on behalf of Allianz, that you're the man of the match. You can take your award there. It's well merited. Good display. You must have been particularly happy with your first half performance.
Yeah, I think we were flying in the first half. I think we had the heart was just, I think in the end we ran out of steam, to be honest.
You were working on scraps, you weren't winning the possession, but you did get a lot of scores, and you personally had 3 points in the first half, so you were happy with that, obviously.
Not too bad. It was going, the ball was going quick. I think in the second half they crowded it and we couldn't get the ball in as fast.
Did Billy Morgan say much to you at half-time about changing your pattern of play, because you were making good results of what you were getting limited possession on?
No, he told us to keep playing the way we are, except we to improve around the middle of the field. That's all he said, really. He said keep driving that.
But happy enough with the performance despite the defeat?
Happy enough with a bit of fitness training. I'd say we need to keep up the pace of the game. I think we just dropped in the last 10 minutes, I'd say.
Well done again, Daniel. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks.
Yeah, nice to see him coming to the fore, because he did a couple of bad errors at the beginning, but he got the head down and came back with 4 or 5 points.
You know, Cork got good points, and some of their newer players got good points. That's encouraging in February for Billy Morgan, because, you know, you have something to look forward to. A manager needs to see talent this time of year that he can develop. He doesn't need, even if he had the luxury of having an all automatic selection, it'd be boring. I mean, he has young talent there, and with his experience, with Morgan's experience at moulding players, you know, he can start building a forward line. He'll have when he goes home tonight, he'll have an idea in his head what the forward line may likely be in a few months' time when he gets the Nemo Rangers players back. And, you know, with Masters back there as well, they've quite a few skillful forwards now. Kerry will go away tonight happy that they won, but they know that they haven't thrown the Cork monkey off their back by any means, because Cork obviously can raise the game for Kerry after last week's performance, when you evaluated it as opposed to tonight's, just no comparison. So it's quite clear that the sight of a Kerry jersey still works the oracle with Cork football.
Yeah, can they bridge that gulf though? And I suppose maybe just finally, bright spots for Kerry might be a strange question, Paul, given the fact that they won, but the standards we expect are high.
Yeah, I suppose in the second half, you know, their forwards opened up a wee bit, and you know, the Gooch is vital to Kerry's cause. There's no doubt about that. They have to get the new players playing with a bit more confidence. Darren O'Sullivan struggled in the first half, mainly because he got on the ball quite a bit, but mainly because Sean Levis played very well as defensively. I think in the second half, when it opened up a little bit, he got a couple of points, and you know, you could see him playing with a bit more confidence as well. And I think Owen Brosnan again playing on the wing, he only made one kind of incisive run, and he got a score today. You know, needs to make more of those. Not sure about the experiment of playing Eamon Fitzmaurice at centre half forward. You know, I don't expect that to continue, if you like, right throughout this league. But I suppose the problem that Kerry have is that they haven't had too many under-21 players coming in through over the last couple of years, because they haven't done very well in that competition. They've done well in the minors, so aside from their current panel, they're looking to the minor, if you like, teams over the last couple of years for new talent. And, you know, to bridge that gap between minor and senior is very, very difficult. And I think that's where their challenge is going to be.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Eugene. We'll have to leave it there. It was a fairly interesting match. You could hardly call it a classic, but kept our interest to the end. And Kerry going through on a scoreline of 14 points to 9. Don't forget, we've deferred coverage of the AIB All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship semi-finals coming for you on Monday evening at 9 p.m, when we'll be showing the Port Tumna and James Stephens match. And on Tuesday at 7:30, it's the meeting of Newtown Shandrum and Ballygallat. We're back on March the 4th with more floodlit football, featuring the match between Cork and Dublin. So until then, go easy.
Next Sunday, Setanta Sports' live coverage of the top-class clash in the Scottish Premier League continues as Rangers play host to league leaders Celtic at Ibrox. Roy Keane will get his first taste of Old Firm battle as he takes to the field for the bitterest rivalry in British football. Don't miss the big match. Rangers v Celtic, live and exclusive on Setanta Sports Ireland, the Irish sports channel. We look back over the week's sports news next in the Setanta Sports Hub Review.
Rehydrating with Powerade before sports is scientifically proven to improve performance. Prepare yourself. Rehydrate with Powerade.
The AIB Hurling and Football Club Championship semi-finals will be played over the next few weeks. Be there for the throw-in. AIB support the club championships. You support your club. Be with AIB. Supporting clubs, supporting communities.
City Centre nights out getting you down? Why not head for the hills? With food, drink and entertainment, Johnny Fox's Pub has everything you need for a great night out. So rise above it at Johnny Fox's Pub, the highest pub in Ireland.
In all aspects of life, you want to perform at the highest level. Demands you place on yourself can put your nervous system under pressure. That's where Baraka comes in. With its extra high charge of complex micronutrients, Baraka helps your body deal with this pressure so you can perform. Baraka, the high performance vitamin.
Come on down to Auto Exchange for a better car deal. With branches throughout Ireland, you get great choice, great quality and fantastic value right on your doorstep. So come to Auto Exchange. There's a better car deal waiting for you. Or visit our website at www.abcd.ie. Auto Exchange for a better car deal. Milwaukee's revolutionary V28 lithium-ion technology. Available in Ireland from M. Donnelly. Move to a higher power.
Carroll's Irish Gift Stores for top quality souvenirs and gifts. Carroll's for the latest styles in soccer, rugby and GAA clothing. Carroll's for Ireland's largest range of official Guinness sports and leisure wear. Visit our 7 city centre stores or shop online at carrollsirishgifts.com. Carroll's, the Irish Gift Stores.
It's between the airport and the city centre with free parking.
Across the road from the Croke Park Stadium.
The new Rejuvenate bed and duck-down duvet.
Widescreen TV, broadband.
A proper power shower and a separate bath. Underfloor heating.
Jury's Croke Park Hotel in Dublin. Book now at rates from €99 per room. Visit jurysdoyle.com or call 01 607 0000. Jury's Croke Park Hotel. Luxury reborn. Subject to terms, conditions and availability.
Discover Ireland's spectacular southwest. Breathtaking scenery, warm, friendly people, a fascinating culture and history. A unique landscape that's yours to discover. So whether you're looking for an exciting outdoor experience, some great golf, or a relaxing break, there's something here for everyone.
Crystal Clean, Ireland's largest car valeting company. Outlets nationwide. To book your appointment today, call 1850 311 211. New outlet now open in Navan.
Simple pleasures in life are a gift. Visa. Love every day.
Next Sunday, Setanta Sports' live coverage of the top-class clash in the Scottish Premier League continues as Rangers play host to league leader Celtic at Ibrox. Roy Keane will get his first taste of Old Firm battle as he takes to the field for the bitterest rivalry in British football. Don't miss the big match. Rangers v Celtic, live and exclusive on Setanta Sports Ireland, the Irish sports channel.
The Hub, sponsored by Betfair.com, the world's leading betting exchange.
Hello and welcome to the Hub Review, the programme where we stitch together some of the best bits from the week's output here on the programme. Now, the talk of the nation on Monday morning was the Battle of Omagh, so we got Eugene McGee and Sean Moran in studio to discuss whether or not it was serious fisticuffs or just the lads pulling out their Louis Vuittons. X-rated scenes to review, Eugene, but starting off, I suppose, is there anything to the theory that this is the Dubs being victimised?
Well, I don't know, I see some, the evening paper this evening saying they were intimidated. I wasn't at the match, so therefore I started at a certain disadvantage. But I mean, this is a typical, I suppose, GA brawl scene all over the television, and a lot of people shouting this is a disgrace and all that sort of stuff. It's certainly not good for the game. And, you know, what I would question is, how do the players feel about this? After all, these players are the glamour boys of Irish sport. They like the people to adulate them, to turn up and watch them and give them all stars and everything. And do they not think they have any responsibility to the public? They don't think they have any responsibility to the thousands and thousands of children who idolise them, who get their autographs, get their photographs. You know, do they think they can just go out and behave like backstreet cowboys on a Saturday night, you know?
Well,
so
what precisely was so bad about this? Because
well, first of all, it's a complete breakdown in discipline. I mean, sport is about discipline, and team sport is about team discipline. So, like, individuals broke the team discipline, then the team broke the discipline, then people on the sideline seemed to get involved, and the row moved over towards the crowd, which is extremely dangerous in any sport. So I think the GA was lucky that things weren't a lot worse there, you know. I mean, the referee was in an unfortunate position. I mean, Paddy Russell was the referee, and I wouldn't have appointed Paddy Russell for that game yesterday, even though he's one of the best in the country, because he refereed a controversial Ireland final with Tyrone in Dublin in 85 when Peter Canavan...
95, yeah.
95, sorry, when Peter Canavan was involved in a late incident, which maybe, in theory, had it gone the other way, Tyrone might have drawn the game. So these memories linger long in the G, and I think he was the wrong man to send to Omagh yesterday. Somebody else should have been sent. But that said, I mean, there were so many things, so much going on that one referee couldn't control it, even with the help of linesmen who were into a system. But however, the GA now, you know, they're talking. The president has said there's been a special attention paid to this and all that. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. For instance, if the GA thinks it's serious enough, will they throw the two teams out of the competition? They won't.
Well, we won't have to wait long to ask him that question, because Sean Kelly will be on the programme in about 10 minutes. But Sean Moran, first of all, obviously there's previous between Tyrone and Dublin, and I get the impression that Dublin were up there expecting to be intimidated and determined to show that they weren't. Now, up to that point, so far, so not guilty. After that?
Well, the history between Dublin and Tyrone was a relatively positive one, because they played a really good All-Ireland quarter-final, the drawn match last August, and even the semi-final was comparatively free of rancour. I think to an extent Dublin went up there to state a case for themselves, because, you know, this season is very important to them and how they close the gap on the top counties and go into the All-Ireland champions. Yes, determined you're not going to be pushed around and all the rest. But I don't think that fully explains what happened. I mean, there was a complete breakdown in order, and, you know, the referee, as Mickey Hart said afterwards, God Almighty couldn't referee that, and, you know, there was truth in it. I mean, people said maybe if he'd taken sterner action early on, but I think the disorder was just so total, and the irresponsibility, you know, once he had even intervened on a couple of occasions, it still went on. I think there was a good case to be made for abandoning the match, particularly after the third brawl. As Eugene said, it went over in the direction of the crowd, and if the crowd had got involved, there would have been mayhem.
Okay, well, exactly. I mean, we can see it kind of going off here, which ultimately leads to all the rest of it. I mean, there's no point in naming individuals at this stage, Eugene, is there? Because it's kind of like...
No, well, I mean, you remember the outcry there was after the second international test last year?
Yeah.
The way the RT lines were jammed to the Joe Duffy show. Well, now, what took place there yesterday is, as to say, almost identical. I mean, there wasn't... quite, maybe not the same visions, but it's the same principle involved here, Matt. Mob rule, bunches of people aiming punches at each other and trying to look tough. Some of them trying to look tougher than they actually are, and putting on a show. But I mean, you could say there's handbag stuff. I don't see any blood around the place, but really, at that, I think that's been a bit frivolous, because the GA has done a wonderful job in cleaning up its image. The Croke Park thing is wonderful, but I mean, this sort of thing will be on. It'll be appearing on websites all over the world now. It drifts from one website to another, and it's not good for the GA at the start of the season. And bearing in mind that two teams playing, one are All-Ireland champions and the other are champions of Leinster. So two of the top 4 teams in the country.
Well, here's where it goes completely off on one.
Well, this is what I'd be concerned about when something like this moves over near the sideline.
It's broken.
Lucky enough, the new stadium in Oma, it's well secured in that, but. There are many grounds around the country where the crowd would be in there now and that.
Well, Sean, this is, I suppose, what gives people who are crying for draconian measures most ammunition, because this did come close to kind of spreading into the crowd. As you can see, the Dublin subs there, they're saying the Tyrone fans behind them, giving them bait.
Yeah, well, you saw there a couple of things that are going to need to be looked at. I believe Dublin are going to appeal Alan Brogan's red card there, and that seems to be backed up by the footage there. But what happened on the way off was the altercation between the Tyrone backroom team, the
there
team
was a
doctor.
physio on there.
Yeah, who was, talking to Brogan, who'd been sent off. And that's ridiculous. You can't have interaction between members of a backroom team, management team, and opposing players, particularly in the circumstances when opposing players have been sent off and possibly in the wrong, and that would have agitated them all the more. So, and then you had the player joining in there with the cornerback, not quite the third man in, but he travelled to get involved with Brogan and triggered the whole thing off again, and these are the sort of things that, if the GA are going to restore order to matches and ensure this sort of thing doesn't happen, they're the sort of things that have to be stamped out. You can't have people triggering fights by joining in where they weren't involved in the first place, running halfway up the field to get involved in things, getting involved with members of the opposition backroom management team. There have to be big penalties for that, because they are dangerous in terms of disorder.
But nonetheless, Eugene, this has been happening as far as I can remember. It goes off once or twice a year and everyone goes, oh, it's terrible. And I think there's a hypocrisy there. People actually enjoy a good bit of a fight on the pitch, as long as it isn't a snaky, dirty one. The stuff that goes on here obviously is different, because there's a different set of dangers there. But it is a physical game.
Yes, it's a physical game, but the point about it is, no more than boxing properly organised, Gaelic has the capacity to allow people to hit and be hit within the rules. You can hit a man so hard in Gaelic within the rules that he's carried off in a stretcher if you hit him the right way at an angle, or two guys sand him in the shoulder. So there is space, as there is in rugby, to do a lot of physical damage if you're that type of person who can do it. And there is no need to step outside the rules. I always had a golden rule to players: never use your fist, never use your boot. Now, if that was retained, if even that could be enforced in Gaelic, I think we'd have a happier situation. And if people want to throw their weight around, good luck to them. That's a part of the game.
That's all we have for part 1. We'll stay with the digging match in Oma, but that's coming up in part 2. In a physical match, and we touched on the kind of Arjun Robin style trend that's happening about players going down.
One of the things that would that cause a lot of problems in the GA, and probably a lot of people mightn't realise this, is this newfound habit in the last few years of players diving. Some of them are partially hurt, some of them are not hurt at all, and the odd one, I suppose, is genuinely hurt. But this diving, when somebody comes near you with a half tackle and lying down holding your head, they invariably hold their head, no matter what part of the body the claim was hit, they hold their head. And the aim of that is cynical. It's to get the first of all, they've got the free. Secondly, to get the opponent possibly yellow carded or second yellow carded. Now, I think that's despicable. I think it's the lowest form of life there is in sport, in any sport, and I believe that causes a lot of rancour, because the man who was innocent there, the opponent who was innocent, he has fierce resentment then, especially if he's yellow carded. So naturally, he or some of his colleagues are going to seek retribution or seek revenge. And it's a cumulative thing over the match then as this goes on. There was one example of it there yesterday,
Well, it seems to be that when Gourley went down and there didn't seem to be a lot of contact between himself from our television angle, Sean, but you can't tell. But I know definitely who was of the opinion, and that was Kieran Whelan, who went over and tried to drag him up as if he'd gone down like a sack of spuds for no reason. Someone else joined in and off it went again. But just on that kind of, on the covering the face and going down like a sack of spuds thing, is there anything that can be done, or is that just part of the modern...
Well, it has been targeted as an offence now, you know, that it's unsporting behaviour, but by its nature it's a very hard offence to detect. What Eugene says is correct across a number of issues, that there are small unseen things that feed into a match having a very rancorous atmosphere, things that happen off the ball, things that are said, you know, verbal exchanges between players, diving, because diving isn't always obvious, and all that feeds into resentment within a game, and it serves to raise the temperature, and presumably you had a lot of that going on yesterday.
It looks like it. Sean, welcome, and thanks for joining us. I know you're just back from Jordanston, so you just made it in for part 2. So we'll have to go back a little with you, because we were talking amongst ourselves in part 1, obviously getting the overview. Your own reaction, I know you announced that you're going to have a full investigation. What precisely does that mean following yesterday's events?
Well, I think I'm just reflecting the views of all sports people that what happened yesterday wasn't acceptable, and that it has to be investigated, and investigated quickly. And the committee in charge, Central Disciplinary Committee, hadn't a scheduled meeting until Wednesday week. We've now asked them to bring it forward until this Wednesday, when they'll have the referee's report, they'll have the use of video and other aids necessary to deal with the matter. And I think that unlike previous years, when video evidence wasn't allowed, last year we took a decision that we could allow video evidence.
That's clear now, video evidence is allowed, yeah?
Yes, we took that decision last year, which I think is a good decision, because otherwise you'd be hiding behind the referee's report, and if he missed something you wouldn't be able to deal with it.
And where does things stand on that? If the ref took action yesterday against a specific player and video evidence shows that actually the player transgressed in a worse fashion than was initially thought by the referee, is that kind of all over now? You can't go back and revisit that player's alleged misdemeanour, or is everything on the board for this investigation?
Well, I would hope that everything be on the board. I know the DRA took a decision which overturned decision given by the Central Disciplinary Committee on that basis. But I mean, there would be options there, that if they saw clearly that the referee missed something, there's always the option of going back to the referee and asking him perhaps, did he see that and did he see it fully? So the important thing I think in this situation is that the matter will be properly investigated, and that the proper penalties will be handed out to those who transgress.
What happens in your mind to the ordinary person's perception of Gaelic football when they see that? Because in my book there's a bit of hypocrisy, because actually a lot of fans enjoy a bit of physical activity that goes outside the rules, but nothing, I suppose, that stretches it too far. It can be a grey area in a physical game that's meant to promote, I suppose, manliness and physical excellence.
Well, maybe that was the case, but I think that's less the case nowadays, and particularly I know that parents in particular now would be disgusted, because they'd be looking at it from a point of view of their own sons, their own daughters playing, and they want them to see them playing safe, healthy pastimes, and Gaelic football and indeed hurling fit that bill pretty well most of the time. And it's important, I think, that when incidents of this nature occur, and in fact, in fairness, this is the first really major incident in a couple of years of its nature, because it continued, not just one incident, but a series of incidents throughout the game.
And not just on the pitch, Sean, but off the pitch as well, which I suppose raises another set of concerns. It's one thing, a self-contained row breaking out in the pitch, and with the best will in the world, that will happen in any physical sport. But when something spreads into the stands...
Absolutely, yes. And as people pointed out, when it spreads into the stands or the sideline, it's only a short distance between that and getting the opposing fans involved. So there's a responsibility in everybody to observe the rules, to keep their own position, and particularly people on the sideline have no business interfering whatsoever with players one way or the other.
Well, what about subs in the stands? Before I get to you, Eugene, what about subs in the stands? That would seem to be a ridiculous, I suppose, thing to have happened in a situation like yesterday. There was no distance between the Dublin players and Tyrone supporters behind them. There was serious bad blood. There was temperatures were going off the spectrum altogether. I mean, surely we can come up with something that's fairly simple and just say no more subs in stands.
Yeah, there was a concern a few years ago that subs in the dugouts weren't able to see the game properly, they weren't properly covered, that they were maybe too close to the line and so forth. So there was a move to get them back into the stand.
So solving one problem could have led to another.
But we saw in Croke Park that didn't really work, and actually where Croke Park is concerned, we took a decision prior to Christmas that we consulted managers and players to put in state-of-the-art dugouts into the Hogan stand side, which will be used for all games as soon as they're ready. So we're actually moving back down to dugouts, but now the dugouts will be much more player-friendly and much more usable than dugouts which we had in the past.
Even in grounds like Oma, that'll come into play.
I think what happens in Croke Park today is going to inevitably happen in other grounds, because that will be the direction given, and particularly if the players find that the new dugouts are user-friendly, which I think they will. And also we'll have monitors in there so they can see the game while it's in progress, and they'll be able to move around and walk around rather than being cramped in wet, ugly dugouts, which was the case in the past.
Okay, Eugene, investigation underway. If you were acting God.
No, the public has no faith. There's a perceived lack of faith in the GA's ability to handle these situations. After we had a melee in Croke Park last year between Armagh and Tyrone, and it ended up with nobody getting suspended, and that was in front of 80,000 people and 500,000 on television. So these things happen, and they happen in public, and I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, already I bet you the wires were alive today all over the country with people checking roads. You already said that Dublin or Sean, that Dublin are likely to appeal the Brogan sending off. That's the attitude of every GA official the minute the game is over. How much can we diffuse this? How light can we get it? How many strings can we pull to get a technicality in here? And no county board, for instance, would it ever have done on Tyrone and Dublin county boards to issue a little apology today to their fans who paid money to win? That never happens in the GA. It doesn't happen in many other sports either, but I mean, you know, that's civil.
Well, let Sean address. I mean, I suppose there is a genuine lack of confidence in the procedure, and it is a fact that county boards and other people have used all sorts of legal loopholes and niceties to get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah, I'd agree totally with Eugene in that. It would be preferable if county boards or clubs for that matter, or indeed managers, would stand up and say, listen, something happened there which wasn't acceptable. We'll take our punishment, and we'll hope that won't happen again in the future.
But it won't happen in this case, presumably, Sean?
Well, hopefully it might, but apart from that, I think we spent a lot of time over the last couple of years trying to improve our whole disciplinary setup. We divided the JSC into two. The CDC now, the Central Disciplinary Committee, are now appointed rather than elected. There won't be any politics, GA politics come into play in it, and I think that even last year they did sit down markers, even though the DRA overruled them on one or two occasions. But those loopholes will also be dealt with and addressed to Congress, and I think we are moving to a better system of discipline at national level, and hopefully the same will apply.
Okay, with that better system will now be stress tested, Sean Moran?
Well, I don't share the President's complete optimism about even the use of video evidence. Video evidence was qualified a good bit by the DRA in that case during the summer, and the Central Disciplinary Committee hasn't really operated off video evidence since. Now, what Sean was saying is correct. It wasn't a total ban on the use of video evidence, but it did qualify it, and I get the impression that the CDC isn't entirely comfortable with the parameters within which they're operating at the moment. And this is critical, because you have to have the apparatus to enforce the rules if they're being breached. And unfortunately this has happened before Congress, so that plans, if you like, to remedy the rule book to make sure that what happened during the summer can't happen again. Obviously, it's not Congress for another 2 months, so they're going to have to proceed on what they have at the moment.
Wait, perhaps, Sean Kelly, there's an argument that really whatever we have at the moment isn't adequate, and now is the time to come up with some, maybe as an oversimplification, but to come up with a system that can put a stop to that yesterday. I mean, in fairness, in your heart of hearts, do you think that Paddy Russell should have abandoned that match?
Well, I tell you, watching it there now, again on the screen, it was very close to it, and I don't think you would fault him. Particularly when it spilled over to the sideline. But
will you recommend maybe through your good offices and the various apparatus within Croke Park to referees that they are actually not going to get flack from on high if these circumstances are repeated, that they say, right, tell the teams to go off?
Well, if there were repeat of that situation, but hopefully there won't be, and in fairness it has to be seen in the context of an awful lot of other games that took place.
Fair enough.
Which were very fair games and very sporting games, but that doesn't in any way condone what happened. But I think we have, over the last year, particularly at last year's Congress, introduced a new disciplinary system and also a new arbitration system, and I think the point is that the arbitration system is now pointing out loopholes. Those loopholes can be can be changed and closed at Congress. And I think over a period of time we are moving very definitely to a better system of discipline and applying discipline, which we didn't have in the past.
Okay, it's just, I suppose, the system of discipline on the pitch. It should really begin and end with the referee. If a referee had more power, Eugene, perhaps.
Well, yeah, there's one vital change, a small change, I think if the GA made would be a big help. That is, if their yellow cards had a cumulative points effect, as they have in soccer. Because the same people are getting yellow carded all the time, and
People
you
have
start with a
previous,
clean
yeah.
sheet every day. Because I can tell you, the GA is full of hob lawyers. There's thousands of people in the GA, literally, who know the rule book off by heart, and every subsection is their hobby. And they specialise in objections and counter-objections and clause, Rule 54, Clause 5, subsection C.
Which isn't within the spirit of the organisation.
Look at the player, nobody wants that stuff. I mean, the GA rule book needs to be rewritten and condensed even shorter. There's attempts have been made to do that.
Okay,
but
Sean, Sean Moran.
Yeah, there has to be, at the heart of all disciplinary systems, there has to be a connection between misbehaviour and punishment. And I don't think that connection is strong enough at the moment. You can indulge in misbehaviour and get away either without being punished or with being punished less than you should be. And what Eugene said is dead right, because cumulative, you had 14 yellow cards given out yesterday. If that was a running meter, so you got your next one, well then you're going to miss a match. Well then that would begin to bite. At the moment it's a fairly meaningless sanction.
And one thing I should add, if that cumulative thing came in, the onus would switch a lot from the referee to the manager. The manager at the moment is not called to account at all for anything that happens by anything done by his team, which is wrong, because he's more important in most counties now than the county chairman is.
Okay, well, Sean Kelly is slightly outnumbered, I suppose, so I want to give you the last word, Sean, on what's going to happen over the next week to 10 days.
No, firstly, I'd agree with Eugene and Sean that if there were cumulative yellow cards, it would be a big help, but that was proposed last year and unfortunately didn't get the required 2/3 majority. But I think it can come back again in due course. But I think that this investigation hopefully will happen quickly, and that will be very firm, and will send out a notice to all team managers, as Eugene says, and players, that the era of having mass brawls and getting away with it is over.
Well, we've reached the halfway stage in this week's Hub Review. Join us for rugby in part 3.
The Hub, sponsored.
And look at that